if they can't see you.
Yeah.
All right. We are live on YouTube. So today we are back for another Dream Chaser, a game of Destiny game. We have 3 players today. From left to right, at least from what I can see, I have Eric, I have Jesse, and I have Morgan. If you each want to say hi and even where you're from, that'd be awesome.
I'll start. I'm Eric, aka Shrimpacles, and I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah.
I'm Jesse. I live in Mesa, Arizona, and I've been in role-playing games for a while. And if you're, it might surprise you, I'm 42.
My name is Morgan. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I've been role-playing for a while, but still sort of new to role-playing games.
Okay. Thank you. So we go right into making characters. The first thing we do in Dream Chaser is we come up with a dream for the game. So I guess the first thing I need to do is move my screen over here so I quit looking at the wrong monitor. And okay. All right, now I'm looking at you. Awesome. So each of you came up with dreams. We want to go ahead and share them, and we're going to pretend like we never heard them before because we just talked about them. So how about, Eric, why don't you say one of yours first?
Okay. One of mine was to recover the Dragon Grail.
Recover the Dragon Grail. Don't know what it is, but I hope we find out. Jesse, what do you got?
The first one I wrote down was Travel to the Stars.
Travel to the Stars. And Morgan, what do you have?
Incubate a hell beast.
Incubate a hell beast. Awesome. Okay. Sorry, that one got me because I'm like, we could start in hell. Most games end in hell. They don't start there. Eric, what else you got?
Raid with the Vikings.
Cool. That's never been done in Dream Chaser. We have not had anything Viking-like, to throw that out there. And
go How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah. Jesse.
Second one was it's off pattern, everybody's fantasy, but invent the hyperdrive.
Invent the hyperdrive. All right. I know that was most of them. Did I miss any?
Defeat the Endless Winter was my third one.
Yes.
And my third one is Journey to Fantastica, because I had a feeling this would go to fantasy.
Which is, you said Fantastica?
Yeah, that's the book version of Fantasia. The movie.
Oh. Okay. So with those said, obviously we have our virtual note cards, which are just their voice. Why don't each of you think of which one kind of jumps out at you? And we'll see if we have any compromise or whatever the word for that is.
I think the best splicing is going to be Journey to Fantastica and the Never-Ending Winter. That's what I envision, splicing the Never-Ending Story in Chronicles of Narnia. And then Incubate the Hell Beast is going to be a side plot. It's totally compatible. It's a very high fantasy.
And Eric, what do you think?
I don't have an opinion, to be honest. I just want to play.
Morgan, what do you think?
I like the Viking one.
Okay. So Jesse, I guess what I kick back to you is there any way we can incorporate the Viking one too?
Oh yeah, that's pretty open. Think of How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay. And the Viking one was what, Eric? What did we call? How did you word it?
Raid with Vikings.
Raid with Vikings. Okay. Well, if no one disagrees, let's go with Raid with Vikings. And we will try to fill in with the rest. And I get this new handy dandy guide sheet that's fillable. So we're going to say Raid with Vikings. Okay. If we raid with Vikings, who do you want to be in that story? So each of you think in approximately 2 to 3 words, what kind of a character would you like to play in that story?
I'm thinking How to Train Your Dragon. So I want to be a gifted, natural gifted adolescent dragon rider.
Okay. Let's see. So I'm going to put Eric and Jesse and Morgan. And Jesse said he wants to be a what?
Naturally gifted adolescent dragon rider. So he's like never done it before, but it's like he'll make friends with the dragon and be totally gifted and forming a bond with it and riding it, and then he'll get to join raiding gangs.
All right. And, anybody else have something?
Um, I want to be the grizzled old hard ass.
Right?
So there's going to be dragons in this world?
There is now.
No, there's no dragons.
No dragons?
No, I met Morgan over the weekend at a convention, and we had dragons and everything. So I was joking, like, no more dragons. There was like dragon hybrids, human dragon, like secret experiments.
There was so many dragons.
Yeah.
It was all because Sout was there.
Yeah, it was South's fault. I blame South. So you said grizzled old
The grizzled old hard ass.
hard ass. Thanks. All right, Morgan, what do you think? We got a grizzled old hard ass, a naturally gifted adolescent dragon rider. What do we miss?
An ignored young scientist.
Okay, all right. Ignored young scientist.
Quotation
So I
marks
guess-
included.
I guess I'd be the grizzled old teacher then,
Okay.
Pete. I think
No
I'm
problem.
probably gonna.
You can still add hard ass as a tag later.
But I think I'll probably be the grizzled old teacher. These are the two young students under my wing. It sounds like.
Two young bucks. Okay. We have our characters. So what do you want to get out of that story? So again, like the dream, you want to create like a sub dream in a short sentence or 5 to 7 words. Come up with a goal that you can achieve, and we're going to place that into our story of, God, was it Ride with Vikings? Only bad thing about the tree. Yeah, I got to
Raid.
flip pages. Raid with Vikings. Now, Jesse, you had a little bit of a thought about this earlier. Any of those dreams we had before, we could fit them in with your character as your milestone.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to reuse one of those dreams, you could use that or come up with something else.
Visit a fantasy world within a fantasy world.
Yeah, you could raid with Vikings. The story could be about raiding with Vikings, but where are they raiding? You know, maybe.
Yeah. They could be like intending to attack the dragons, and he wants to make friends with them.
Yeah.
Make friends with the dragons.
So yeah, just think of your milestones. Some of you might, now that you know what characters you want to play, you might want to think along the lines of what's the coolest thing you could do in this story. You know, somebody might want to fall in the sky from a dragon and land on another dragon, or you know, the teacher may want to be a teacher because you want to pass on your legacy to a new young generation.
Actually, my first milestone is worded as pass on my legacy.
Pass on my legacy. Jesse or Morgan, what do you have in mind? We're going to be one each, obviously. We got a one shot going on, so. Pass on my legacy.
Maybe use one of her gadgets to do an avatar-like mind link communion with the dragon.
Oh, fun. Okay. So we're talking about Mind Link a Dragon.
Mine is save someone or something with my science, despite the fact that nobody believes that it actually does anything important to the world.
Which is really fitting, given you're like, you are the black sheep. If you are like the Vikings, right? You're the black sheep. What do you mean?
Oh, yeah.
Science?
No, they're all like, let's kill people. And I'm like, ooh, science.
Okay. I'm going to write save someone with science. So now that we each have one of those, which order do we think they go in? In this story of raiding with Vikings, are we going to pass on our legacy first? Are we going to mind link with the dragon first? Or are we going to save someone with science first?
I think passing on the legacy is going to be the end.
Me too. I think dragon first, then science, then legacy.
Jesse, what do you think?
I think they're gonna. It's like I'd probably find a way to integrate some of these. So like my character or a friend of one of my characters could be his son, and then one of her gadgets would be vital in changing how everything works in the village. Like this device actually works. So that those are kind of mesh together and become one. To have science that works and mind link a dragon.
Okay. So, but if we had to have an order, would you go mind link or save someone with science first?
Save someone. Oh, save someone's science. What was the context of save someone's science? Does save a scientist or save someone's work?
Save someone with science, like her science pays off.
Oh,
Like a
No one,
gadget
no
or
one
something.
believes it's actually important at all.
okay. It'd probably be getting the gadget to work and then actually using it. So probably mind link and then save and then pass on the legacy.
All right. Sounds like we have, God, what is that word? We have an agreement. We have consensus. That's
Accord.
what I keep. Yes.
An accord.
Okay. An accord. Yes. So everyone pull up your editable character sheets if you haven't already.
Ooh.
We're going to mosey on down our steps. And yes, there's a book. So we move right along. If you haven't already, please put the dream in the dream section, and the role in the role section, and the milestones in the milestone section. If you have any questions, I will help you. Okay. And then we move right on to step 4, which is the tags. So tags are just words that describe your character. In Dream Chaser, we're trying to help you make the character you have in your mind and actually put it on paper and reinforce that that's what you were going for. So maybe we have people who, like we've mentioned, the teacher might want to be a hard ass. So the teacher would be good at being a hard ass. And when hard asses should be more successful, then he would get to reroll. We had stuff like, flipping my page here. We mentioned that Jesse wanted someone who's naturally gifted. So
Yeah.
maybe what we would want to say is like a physical specimen, or like,
An athlete.
or like a born athlete or Olympian, or anything that could describe what you think would be a naturally gifted person. You also mentioned adolescent.
Yeah.
So there might be ways to say young, naive. You could say still learning. There's kind of no wrong way to put it. We just want to capture what you're going for. Maybe you want to be oblivious or like, pig-headed. Morgan, you mentioned we wanted to be ignored. So that's a lot of, you could put ignored. You could put like
a trait of my characters very often.
Yeah. You could put scientific, whatever.
Analytical.
Yeah. Now they don't have to describe only what your role says, but do remember that your role has no mechanical benefit. So if you want any benefit of those words, put it in here now. So Grizzle.
Are we doing a tag, like a limit of the number, or
3?
The natural gifted athlete, naive, and animal friend, because he likes to befriend animals.
Awesome. Now with naturally gifted, are you thinking physical?
Yeah, like that agility, graceful.
And give me one second, I'm gonna grab a character sheet.
Or burly, but more like dexterity, grace, dodges everything. Perfect balance.
Okay. And Eric, how you doing?
I have experienced, warrior, and uses to die.
Damn, that's solid right there. This is not solid. There we go. Morgan.
I have 2.
Okay.
Trying to figure the last
That's
one.
okay. What do you have?
Analytical and a laughing stock.
Laughing stock. Okay. Yeah, and come up with it whenever you come up with it, even if it's in game. It doesn't really matter to me. So, okay. And then moving right on, we move to strategies. So, to hammer every problem is a nail. In this game, strategies are how you're going to achieve and accomplish all of your things. So you're going to come up with 3 strategies. They can be worded in any which way you want, whether it's, good looking, leadership, or conniving, or scheming bastard. They're all good uses of some kind of communicating skill. Strategies, we also say that because these could be magics, they could be powers, they could be your cybernetic arm or your jetpack, they can be physical traits, personality traits, anything that could give you an edge. You can place these on your sheet in any one of the slots that is below legend. So anything that's beginner up to the best, and you'll notice on your sheet that there's 2 columns. So you could have 2 at the best or 2 at beginner or any mix you want. One of my favorites. Oh, yeah. What's up?
Just 2?
3.
Oh, okay.
2 at the same level.
Nope. You can put them anywhere you want.
Oh, yeah, max. same level.
Yeah, but you only could put 2 at the best, right? So one of my favorites that I've been talking about a lot lately is somebody made an expert green belt, and that just had me rolling because most games, right? It's like I know judo, or I know Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or I'm hand-to-hand fighter, and this guy was like, "No, Pete, I'm an expert green belt. Like that's an expert mid-level martial artist. I have like a really awesome right kick, and my left jab's pretty good, but it's like that's all I know." And of course, characters like I always use Inspector Gadget as a good example. Like that guy was probably the best at being a bumbling idiot or being oblivious. He was probably like skilled with his gadgets. He wasn't the best, but then he was like a beginner of being an inspector, a beginner of Interpol or investigation or whatever it was. He maybe even had like the best was like his niece Penny, who actually solved all the problems. And as you come up with them, just spit them out because you'll help other people kind of play off your ideas.
I did 3 buy my's. Buy my blade at best, buy my strength at expert, and buy my love at beginner.
Ooh. There's something romantic about how you did that.
More along the lines of like he loves his students.
Actually watching.
Well, he loves his students, but he can't, like, because of tradition and because of everything, like, he can't necessarily show it in the best way. He's very much a gruff, kind of angry, possibly semi-abusive verbally tutor.
Yeah.
And teacher, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have love for these students and trying to teach them what he's supposed to. He just can't. He doesn't know how to express it at all. It's just not, he's too Viking.
I like that idea. I'm too Viking. Where's pencil? Jesse, how are you doing?
See, I did athletics at the best, and expert. I did nature, which would include like any animal empathy and nature and survival and natural skills, and writing and driving, which would be directly relevant to his role.
Yeah.
I'm an expert at scientific analyzing, an expert at problem solving, and a beginner at being taken seriously.
Okay, I like that. That's a good one. Beginner at being taken seriously. I'm not very good at that.
No.
Those first 2, what were they again?
An expert at scientific analyzing and problem solving.
What do you think the difference is?
Problem solving is just like generic for any type of situation. Thing is looking at something, figuring out how scientifically things about it or how it could be used, etc.
Okay, all right. That's kind of funny. Actually, what you did there is like one of them will almost always be imagined when the other one's reason. So that's kind of nice, actually. You're like, it's in my wheelhouse, so it's a reasonable use of this one, or it's an imaginative use of the other. Okay.
Just like if you say it doesn't work for that one, it'll work for the other one.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of that, we move right on to the next step, which is the soul skills. So in Dream Chaser, every test is succeeded by rolling 2 dice. They're D10s. One of them is always under a soul skill, and another one is generally under a strategy, except for one roll in the game. So usually you have 2 target numbers, 1 target number for your strategy that you have to roll under on that D10, and then 1 number that we're going to assign here in a second under one of your soul skills that you have to roll under on the other D10. So every time you roll, you can get 2 successes, 1 success, or no successes. If you get 2 successes, things move well. They succeed as you visualized or imagined. We explain how whatever your strategy was worked. If you get 1 success, you will succeed at the bare minimum or the direct goal, but there will be an obstacle or problem or added result that was unintended. Again, if you get 2 zeros, which is a fail, it won't only not succeed, but everything will escalate. There'll be more problems, or something gets worse, or somebody gets hurt, et cetera, et cetera. Criticals happen when you roll doubles, which is the same number on both dice, which with the 3 outcomes means there's 3 versions of a critical anytime you roll. So when criticals happen, They lock on. They can't be changed. We're stuck with them for better or worse. All right. Okay. So with that, the soul skills, there's imagine and there's reason. You're going to have 10 points to split between the two of them. 5 and 5 is a great idea for starters. But generally how they work is that anytime you use a strategy, you're either going to use it directly. It's a perfect fit. You have all the tools you need. You're at the right place. Or it's going to be a stretch. I'm going to use my cooking ability to build a building because I'm going to explain to Pete that, oh, well, I'm just following the recipe. And usually I have a sous chef in the kitchen. That's like having a foreman. And I'm going to have the foreman read the schematics and have the people make the building. And I'm going to use my cooking. And I'd be like, well, yeah, okay, that's a stretch. That's imaginative use of your cooking. So
I just would have made it out of gingerbread, Pete. That's the way I would do it.
Yeah, and then now you have a building shaped like a gingerbread man, So
exactly.
So 5 and 5, if you're a person that's always going to come up with some creative version of what you're doing, then you're probably more of an imaginative player. And if you are going to be more by the book, like, well, Pete, I'm going to use chemistry for creating this potion because I'm going to a chemistry lab and I have chemistry. That's a reasonable use of chemistry. Any questions there?
No.
We go to health. Health, you have 3 scores, mind, body, spirit. These come into play when we have challenges. So these come into play when shit gets real. So if you are more of a mental character, you want a little more mind, meaning if you try to outsmart things, set traps, ambush people, one-up them. Body is anything physical, running, chasing, fighting. Spirit is anything conversation, manipulating, pushing people, breaking them down. So if you lean towards one of those directions, put a few more points in that. You have 12 points for the 3 of them. So you could have a 4 on each, or 2 5s and a 2, or having a 8, 9, or 10 is probably not really that awesome in a short game. Having a 1 or a 2 can be dangerous to your health, but that's fun in a short game too. So
sorry, remind me what you said spirit was.
Conversation mostly. Manipulation, convincing, intimidating, breaking someone's will. And this all relates back to everything in Dream Chasers on a 1 to 10 scale. 10 is always the greatest, most powerful, godlike. 1 is always the most feeble, the weakest we can imagine, the lowest. Where 4 is usually average. And 5's above average. 6, we start getting into like, super or special or gifted or scion. Then that 8, 9, and 10 become supernaturally, crazy stuff.
Do we want to tell you our stats for this, or is it unimportant?
No, it doesn't matter. Just as long as you know them. And it adds up to 12 points.
Yeah, I'll tell you mine. I did 5 and 5 for Imagine and Reason, and then for Mind, Body, Spirit, I did 4, 6, and 2.
Okay. And going on to relationships. Relationships, you get 3 of, let's say 2 of these short game. So you get 1 that has to be another player, and you get 1 that can be any person, place, or thing. So
he is my teacher?
He is, or he could be. Okay. He is a teacher.
I had definitely been imagining I was both of your teachers, in fairness.
I could think my character could be friends with the scientist and close friends with Eric's character's son.
Oh, cool.
So they could be integrated with the Son of Legacy.
That sounds like a good idea. Yeah, and then 1 can be a person, place, or thing. If you have like a weapon that's important to you, what happens is you pick a. Stepping back 1 second, is each of these either are a true love, an intimate, a close, a casual, or a contact. That has the only benefit there is if it's a person, I know kind of what they would do for you, whether or not you wanted them to, right? You can put them anywhere you want with those. You then also have to give them a tag, which is a word or 2 that describes why they're valuable to your character. Like your lawyer, maybe he knows legalese, or he gets you out of problems, or he gets you out of jail. Your mom could feed you. She could, give you shelter. She could be pampering. You might have a dog. Maybe you might even hate the dog. You could put like, annoying is, annoying as hell or something. We've had people who were like, they mentioned other mercenaries or people or like other player characters, and they call them a sandbag, And they don't have to be reciprocal. Just because you say something really nice and have a true love with one character doesn't mean they have to say the same back. They could think that you suck.
Yes, we do want to share, right?
Yes, please. These ones I need to know to kind of integrate them into the story.
Okay. For me, Close is the hard-ass teacher.
All right.
He's my teacher. Taught me to think critically.
Oh my God, she's blaming you already.
It's impressive with my 2-mind score. I am pleased with my ability to have done that.
And then I have an intimate that is my sister, who is the opposite of me, super Viking-like, and offers frustration or motivation depending on the day.
Okay. That's a really fun one. Frustration or motivation. Like total sibling right there, right?
As a person with 2 younger siblings.
Do you have a name in mind for her, or can I name her?
Go ahead.
For some reason, I like Iglette.
How would you spell that?
I did Iglette. Okay. And then Jesse or Eric, do you have anything in mind?
I was thinking being close childhood friends with the hard-ass teacher's son.
That's right. Teaches. I'm putting Teaches. Son. And do you have a name for him, or should I give him one?
I'll let him name him because he's his
Oh, yes.
I don't care. Give him the first name, but his last name is Raznak's son, because my name is Raznak.
Son of Raznak.
So, yep.
Okay.
I have a true love relationship with Stormbringer, which is my axe.
Okay, and what's your axe? What's the value of your axe? Does it make you feel powerful?
It gives me confidence.
Strike true.
Yeah, it gives me confidence.
Confidence. And Jesse, the teacher's son, what was your value? What's the value of the son?
It'd be close childhood friends.
Oh, because you're childhood friends. All right.
Yeah. It's in the close category.
And Jesse, did you have another one?
Yeah, they're going to be friends with Morgan's character.
Morgan. Scientist. I like that none of you jumped at me about the T. I'm always like, just use the simplest word in the role for their name. But you all like instantly went there, so that's great. And what's the value of the scientist to you?
It's kind of friends, but they could grow closer as they. But he like knows
less about him.
Fascinated with the gadgets, but
okay, I'm put friends, which is funny.
I couldn't care less about his character.
Yeah, you're not really a person that like. You're just like buddy with everyone. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Raznak, what's your other one?
This is up to Morgan if she's down, but she has the relationship with her sister, and the relationship with her sister is they're both my daughters.
Ooh.
I like that.
Okay.
And so I have a close relationship with Morgan's character because she is my daughter.
Yeah.
But she is a massive source of disappointment.
Okay, and what's the value of that relationship?
Close.
Oh no, like what like Stormbringer was confidence.
Okay. I had
daughters do what for you?
I had assigned disappointment as the tag because I didn't realize.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, disappointment was
fine.
my tag.
I see how it is.
You mentioned I went off of the fact that you mentioned your sister is super Viking,
okay.
and I am like the alpha male Viking that exists, right? Like I am the Viking paragon.
So I'm literally the boy from How to Train Your Dragon.
Hey, I will recreate good stories if that helps. I will do whatever.
It's a very good story.
Okay, so we have those. Those look solid. And then moving right along, we have, last but not least, we have belongings. So come up with at least one item, up to 3. And these have no mechanical benefit, but they're fun, of things that your character may not typically have, right? Like anything you normally would have, I'm not going to argue with. But if I'd question it, then that's why you have this section. If you have the Book of the Dead, I don't think I heard any reason why any of you should have that. If you have so like a dragon in a box, that'd be weird. Like if you have like a magic hat, that I wouldn't expect that. So anything that comes up that sounds fun and iconic. Maybe you have a talking cat. And of course, you could simply say, like, I have a torch. Like I always have a torch. No matter where I'm at, I have a torch. That's the main benefit of these, is that like you have them when you need them. Or the story rips them away from you.
Oh, God.
Smart cat. Not necessarily talking. Just one of the smartest cats around.
Smart cat.
I have my belonging.
What you got?
It's a hidden handmade sailboat that I made and that I will go out and sail on when nobody's paying attention.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Which is very often.
Hidden handmade self. Why can't I say that? Okay. Hidden handmade sailboat. So I'm just going to put sailboat. That's fine. Sailboat, 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 sailboat.
I have a magical firestone.
As you would, Viking.
As I would.
Oh,
I have Morgan's first abacus. And I also have the dragon grail.
Awesome.
But I don't know what it is. I just know that it is the dragon grail, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
I just think of it as my lucky cup.
Drink from the lucky cup. Jesse, anything in mind?
Let's see. I did a book all about dragons.
Dragons, yay!
And a dragon figure bracelet. So it's like a large bracelet, like almost as big as a bracer, and it's got exquisite artwork of a dragon on it.
Okay. Did you say dragon finger bracelet?
It's like a large bracelet. Is almost as big as a bracer.
Okay. Is it made of like a bone finger?
Probably more like a very durable wood.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's
When I
carved
heard it,
like a dragon claw.
when I first heard it, I thought you meant like it was a dragon finger that was like molded into a bracelet or something. Yeah.
Oh no, I would say it was actually have artwork of an entire dragon on it.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
Or at least a dragon head.
Okay. Do either of you want any more time to come up with anything else? Or are we ready to keep moving?
Yeah, my third one's a smart cat, and I made that my third relationship too. That close.
Smart cat. Okay. All right. And we have the sailboat. Good to go.
So
Okay.
does my character have both a brother and a sister?
Yes.
Thank you for answering that. I'm like, all I know is you have a sister. You're right, because Teach is son. Thank you.
Yep. No, you got a brother and a sister.
Which obviously the brother means nothing to your dad.
No.
He's an adult. He's fine. He's
he's your stand-up, typical, perfect.
solid Viking. The other two were girls, and so they made me train them.
That's awesome.
Volunteered, and one of them is awesome, and the other one disappoints me on a regular basis.
Okay.
All right.
Before we go any further on this,
Ichi,
I want to go get my laptop charger so my laptop does not die on me.
yeah, go for it. And
I
the
will
rest
do
of you
that.
think of names. Yeah, think of names. So.
I did Lucas Eriksson for mine. Nice Norwegian name.
Yes, Eriksson.
I love that all of the people in this game are now somehow my children.
That's a good job right there.
All right, mine is
Eriksson.
Raznak Jarkelson. HJALKARSSON.
All right. You know, in my editable sheet that made the word so small I can hardly read it. It's Erik, parentheses, Raznak, Hayelkson, Carlson. I don't know.
Raznak's fine.
Raznak, Carlson. All right. If either of you need to step away for a drink or a potty break, otherwise she gets back, we're going to vision roll.
I'll use the restroom and say goodnight to my kids. So I'll be right back.
Cool.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
We took a minute break so that Erik could run and go,
Okay.
So if you need anything, you can go do that as well.
Okay.
Otherwise, I will stand here as still as possible.
Sorry, my kids were having ice cream and I wasn't allowed to leave without any, they said.
What is the last name he chose for the son so that I can use the same?
Yeah, Erik, what was the name you came up with?
So you would be Raznak's daughter, D-O-T-T-R. Last name.
Repeat that slower.
Okay, so your last name is R-A-Z.
Okay.
N-A-K.
Okay.
D-O-T-T-R. I might have some small knowledge of Vikings. My alternate Twitter may be the Viking Papa. You can neither confirm nor deny this as a thing.
Okay. When you three are ready, in whichever way you're going to roll dice, go ahead and roll dice. This is the one unique roll of the game we call vision rolls. You were going to try to roll one of these dice under your imagine score and another one under your reason score. And then so pick that ahead of time and tell me how many successes you get. It has to be under, not equal to.
Also, Pete, I named my character Anya.
Anya, thank you.
Okay, wait. Walk me through that roll one more time because I just realized I was rolling 2d12s. So
Okay. You're going to roll 2 d10s, preferably of different colors or percentiles so you can tell them apart.
Okay.
And one of them assigned to your imagine and one of them assigned to your reason.
Okay.
And you want to roll under each of those with their appropriate die. And just tell me how many are successful. It has to be under, equal is miss.
I have 0 successes.
Okay.
Under is successful?
Under is successful.
Under is successful.
Okay, I got 4 and a 2, so it'll be 2 successes.
Excellent.
Also 2 successes.
Ooh. Morgan, they're putting you on the spot. Okay. So with vision rolls, what I'm going to do here.
Do doubles matter on your vision roll?
No, it's the only time they don't.
Sort of.
Okay. So what we're going to do here is we know that we're playing a story about raiding with Vikings. The first milestone in our story is to mind link with the dragon. So I have 2 questions for each player. The first one is to you as the player, helping to influence the story. The second is to you trying to get in the head of your character. So the first question is, what is stopping us from mind linking with the dragon? And it starts with Morgan because she had 0 successes.
Oh no.
Why can't we mind link with the dragon?
No one trusts the dragons enough to attempt to mind link with them.
No one trusts them. Okay? If your character had to try to get us to trust dragons, how would you try to do that?
Find scientific evidence, apply it to scientific reason, and scientifically explain why we should trust them.
Science. Okay. So when the number of successes you have dictates who is going to give you a tag that reflects your answers. So since she had 0 successes in a roll, I assign a tag that reflects what she said. Now, it's up to me if I want to assign something that fits very well or something that doesn't fit at all because, I want to make it more fun. So she says that no one trusts dragons and that she would fix that with science. So I think that it'd be fun if she had a tag that was, God, what's a fun way that's not... Okay, I can't get on my head. So write down batshit crazy. So on the right column of your tags, write batshit crazy, and then it's up to you as the player to use it. But if you find a reason why it might help you succeed, I get to chuckle that you had to prove that you're batshit crazy. So
okay. It's just for her, or all of us?
That's for her.
Okay.
Now, the fun thing about this is when we play the game, anytime a player says, I think your character is ... we can vote tags onto characters. That's how you get more tags. They reflect you as a player being more like that to the audience. So one of the things about getting these temporary tags is they hopefully show players in different light so that they're more likely to get more tags voted onto them. So moving right along, those are the 2 questions. So we go to the next person. So there's no 1 successes. We go to the 2s. Erik, you're the first one on my screen. So 2 questions for you. We have to mind link with a dragon. What's stopping us? And this is a player. You can piggyback in what Morgan said. You could say something completely different. You could just be like, ditto. I like what she said. But this is your chance also to, if you want to fight stuff, to put in some reason why we need to fight stuff. Wait. If you want to talk about things,
My character is the only Viking to have ever killed a dragon.
Okay.
Ooh.
So we can't mind link with a dragon.
Which is even more why I'm a disappointment.
So how does that fit? We can't mind link with one because you're the only one who's killed one. So we're still missing a little logical piece there.
The dragons know. The dragons are a hive mind.
Dragons, hive mind.
They know I've killed one.
With us. Yeah.
Yeah, they know I've killed one.
Rasnak killed one. Okay. If your character had to try to help us mind link with dragons, who, basically either don't want to deal with you or don't deal with people because of you killing them, how would your character try to do that?
He would.
I'm over here like, tell me, I'm gonna split heads. I get it. That's your character. That's fine.
So if it was so if it's uncovered, right, that it's for the good of the tribe, right? If it's for the good of the collective to mind link with dragons, my character would leave. He would allow himself to be exiled if it would improve the life of his family and his tribe.
Okay. So what that means is you need to give yourself a tag. Generally speaking, that would reflect what was said there, that your character, what kind of a character would leave for the benefit of everyone else. Obviously benevolent, selfless, all those great things. But you get to make it for yourself. So you could pick something that you thought was a very advantageous wording. Totally up to you.
He loathes himself for killing the dragon. He knows now that we have this connection, we know that the reason we can't link with these dragons is because of me. I actually legitimately hate myself for
self-loathing.
Aw.
Okay. Right, right column, put self-loathing. Or I'm sorry, or however you want to word it. Last but not least, Jesse, you heard what they've said. What's stopping us from mind linking with the dragon?
I think his parents are against it, so that would be his hindrance.
Okay.
He doesn't want him meet with dragons that might have a grudge against the village and destroy everybody.
Yeah. Okay. And then if that was the case, how would your character try to make it work anyway?
He would probably sneak out and possibly try to recruit his friend to come in too, so he can have actually make a friend and come back with testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses that we've made friends with the dragons, and then they might be able to commune with them.
Okay. Okay. So in your case, think of a tag that would help you if that situation arises for your character. You get to make it up yourself.
I'd say it's like eager to be friends with the dragon, or eager dragon friend.
Yeah, or dragon friendly. Yeah, any of those. As long as you know what it means and I get it. Cool.
Dragon xenophile.
Okay. So with our story beginning, anybody have a name they would like for the village or their tribe?
Trondheim.
Trondheim?
Trondheim. Trond.
Trondheim. Okay.
Yeah, H-E-I-M.
Okay.
Once upon a time in a village far, far away.
There was a waterfall that cascaded down a high cliffside, and below it was the town, a town known as Trondheim. Oh, sorry, I gotta say it, Trondheim. And above, high in that cliff, there was a staircase that rode along the winding sides of the mountain, and above was the hall of Trondheim. And there sat the great Raznak. Raznak has sat high above in this hall, looking over his ancestral home in a time of general peace, other than, Viking peace, right? You have to raid, you have to get supplies. You don't actually create a lot yourself. So, I mean, sometimes it's harsher than others. Some seasons are worse. It is raiding season. And from your experience, raiding season, is that mostly done throughout the year, or is that done seasonally?
We hit a lot right before harvest time.
Okay. So summer.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is hot. It is summertime, hot for your people. I mean, obviously your summertime is probably like, let's say it's like the 80s. And, I don't think it gets scalding hot in this fake Scandinavian country, or, like whatever we call that, hot Northern European country. It's kind of a misty place, a lot of strong winds. It can rain a lot, but in this, you're kind of a little out of season for the rains. It is very hot. People are generally walking around in minimal clothing. Given it's a Viking culture, there is a lot of sort of armor or leathers that are worn. Many people have weapons, unless there are some. People that have weapons.
No, there's weapons.
Yeah, we're mostly thinking of wood cabins and huts. Think of outdoor forges and probably contests of strength and kids being physical outside, noises of some animals. Of course, everything would be livestock, chickens, bulls, I would say. Okay, so raiding has begun, and where would we put Jesse? Jesse would be... Okay, now Jesse should be... Jesse, you are outside of town. Now, you don't have a dragon, right? You're a dragon. We were going for a dragon rider, so we're leading, hopefully, to that path. Let's put you, for the time being, that you were left basically as a guard out front.
Okay.
You were not taken on this raid, but we still need strong, able-bodied men to protect the gates as we wait. And by gates, I just mean, you have one of those wooden pike walls around the town at the base of the mountain.
He might be agile and graceful. He doesn't have that burly build.
Morgan, of course, we're going to put Anya. Anya, you're probably up in the hall, unless there's some kind of experiment you're working on.
Not the moment.
Okay, so we'll put you up in the hall. And first, we have Jesse. Jesse, so Lucas is hanging outside, and you see, what was his? I was going to say Ryoma. Do you anybody care what we call the teacher's son, which is Raznak's son?
Yeah, and also her brother.
Yeah.
Did we give him a name?
I was thinking Ryoma, but that's not a great Viking name. Do we have any Viking names you want to change?
How about
Erik?
reorg?
Reorg, that's a good one. Thank you. Okay, so you see Reorg, and you can kind of like, at first it's almost like a what do they call that? Like an illusion, like a mirage, right? As you look out and you see the grass blowing, and tall trees in the distance, and the kind of hilly and dirt road, and you see a lone figure walking back, as you could imagine a person sulking. But he's still kind of a strong, imposing figure. He's moving very slow, but it doesn't take too long for you to recognize that it's obviously your childhood friend. It's Reorg.
I think, is he headed toward the gate, or is he?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I think once he gets close enough so he doesn't leave his post by too far, he will go up and meet him and start a conversation with him. Okay. And of course, he'll probably start talking about dragons.
Now, for Jesse, your character, Lucas, what are his tags?
Let's see, a natural gifted athlete, animal friend, naive, and then from the vision roll, dragon xenophile.
Okay. Yeah, so naively, you think that, he must be happy because he's probably a lone survivor. But that shows his strength, unlike the strength of all the others who went. Now, he went out and raid like many of your folks do, but his raid probably had 12 to 20 other people with him. So he's either returning a deserter or he's returning something honorable as the lone survivor.
I think he won't try to be too prying. So he'll chat up about dragons and stuff, and then say, and then kind of throw in a question why are you by yourself? It's did you find a dragon or something?
Did you find a dragon or something? Yeah. So as he gets closer to you, I imagine you kind of talking as he's a little too far away, and his head is kind of lowered. So it becomes more and more obvious to someone who's not naive that he's sulking. He's not happy with what happened. He doesn't have any riches to speak of. He doesn't have fat packs or a sack over his shoulder. He's got a spear that's kind of lowered in his arm. It looks like the back half of it's been busted of the wooden shaft, but it still has the front head. He is covered in blood. It doesn't look so much himself, but he does have cuts on his arms and his legs that are visible, though he has much more of a sort of a ring mail sort of piece that's covering his center, his torso and his abdomen. So he walks up. He has a helmet that has a part that's kind of crunched in at the top, so it's actually sitting a little higher on his head. When he makes eye contact with you, you can tell that he looks very somber. So you start talking very peppy, it sounds like, about dragons, trying to avoid the subject that he is, so downtrodden.
It was what happened? It was I was where's everybody? What happened to your party?
Lucas, we need to see my father, and we need to call the shaman.
The
worst has happened.
Oh, it was okay, we'll get there right away. I was you're not too wounded or anything? You kind of checks him over.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you started to sound like the guy who never gets to go out on the raids.
Yeah.
He's. I will be okay, but we must get my sister back, and the others.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll go inside, and it's any dragons?
So this is really, really funny then. Okay. Yes, there be dragons.
Oh, okay. Oh, did the dragons take your sister?
He's now this is for you. The funny part is there's like never actually dragons. So like this is the one time that you've ever been like, were there dragons? Are there dragons? He's like, yes, there were dragons.
It's like, he's walking with them toward the chief and shaman already. So he's
okay. I can imagine that. Yeah, as you could, if this was like a movie, right? Like the camera just stops and you just see these two fading in the distance as they walk like into the town at the base of the mountain of Trondheim, and eventually other people are peppering them with questions as they want to know what happened to the chief's son and where is everyone else, and that we emerge back in the hall above, and Raznak, you're sitting on your chair. We could say your throne, if you will. But we are in the hall where there is food present. There is drink available. There are other men that are walking around that are. I mean, this is just a great hall. This isn't segmented into many rooms. It's kind of like a big open hall where most of the people that are attendants or other people that work and hang out in this area are all visible. There are some lofts and of course a couple bedrooms that are you and your families.
And one gigantic bonfire.
Yes. So word hasn't reached you yet down below that otherwise you do see that Anya's here. Okay. And there you do. I'm giving you a shaman. We'll give him some. Wife. Awesome. What's a good female Viking name? Because we have Ignat.
Probably Greta.
We have Anya and we have Greta. Awesome.
I don't know if Anya is actually accurate to Viking or not.
I don't mind it.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay. Anya, Greta isn't really either, but it sounded good.
So Greta, we'll give Greta like tattoos, like cool, like different tattoos on her body. We'll give her like actually like a mostly shaved head, but like kind of like a ponytail that sticks off the back. She's even got tattoos like around her eyes that kind of give her like kind of like raccoon eyes, but they make her look kind of dark and mysterious. She has more furs than most of the others of your tribe, especially with how hot it is. But it's still kind of like symbols of her position. They're probably like bear furs or something.
And her coyote headpiece.
Sure. Yeah. I wasn't sure if I'd go there, but it will say coyote headpiece, and of course like a bone necklace. Okay, and so Greta's there. And she walks towards you as you are doing what, Raznak?
I've probably been watching Anya train with a sword, and it's not good.
Going disastrously.
It's really, really upsetting, and I've just got my hand kind of over my mouth and just like clenching my beard and just gently pulling hairs out one at a time because it is awful.
So, Anya, what strategy would you use if you had to practice with the sword?
Less trying to actually use the sword and more just trying to predict the opponent.
Okay. So, in this case, I imagine, Vikings don't really spar or train like we do. Okay, good. I was going to say...
It's a big wooden dummy.
All right. So, yeah, I guess we've given you a wooden sword against a wooden dummy. Which strategy would you like to use to just showcase your abilities? I imagine you mentioned problem solving, so I mean that's a possibility here. Mm-hmm. You're trying to fix the problem. You're trying to make you spar dummies.
Problem solving then.
It would be an imaginative use because you have to physically solve this problem, which kind of sucks. Mm-hmm. Okay, so roll your dice for imagine in problem solving.
One success.
Okay. Do you have any tags that would help you? Any tags that would show your father?
I'm batshit crazy.
Awesome. Okay. What do you do that's batshit crazy with this wooden sword against this dummy? You're hitting it. That's what you're supposed to do, right? You like whack the dummy occasionally, but you don't seem to really know what your father wants you to do here. I mean, like, it's not a real person. It's not like you kill it. How do you make this look good? So you go batshit crazy, and what does that look like?
I turn the sword around, hold it by the blade part of it, then jam the end of the handle into the hole that's the dummy's mouth, then twist and like break the dummy's head off.
Okay, re-roll the die that failed and see how well you do.
Success.
Okay, all right. So yeah, so she's doing okay, and you're like, there's no grace here. There's no style. If this was a real person, I mean, she's like, just standing, straight up, like just whacking it like it's a broomstick, And then she's looking at you and seeing that obviously you are just not responding in any way, that's praiseworthy. So she goes, okay, I got to step this up. She spins the blade around, which is a wooden blade anyway. And then holding the blade, she jams that hilt right in the face of the dummy, which, it's not even supposed to have a hole. It's just like a dented piece of wood from other people bending it. So she like rams it in there like a crowbar, leverages it up and pops the head off. And then it sounds like she like probably, if it's batshit crazy, she probably like screamed or something. And she turns and looks to you for like approval,
Okay. So here's the problem. The English wear helmets. Number one. Number two. And like I walk over and I'll draw my sword, and I usually I have this big huge axe that's Stormbringer is way too big for any normal man to wield it with one hand, but I am Raznak and so I do what I want. But I pull out my normal blade and I just take her hand and I just gently touch it to the blade so she can see it's sharp.
Okay.
I'm like, you're not going to do that with a normal sword.
And then feel free to speak while I'm talking. So okay. Greta's going to walk up and put her hand on your shoulder, disrupting whatever's said. Anya, are you saying anything?
No, not really.
Okay. So your mother walks up, and in her strange and graceful way, she rests a hand on the shoulder of your father. And she probably calls you Raznak? So Raznak, yeah. Your son returns, but he has... And then she kind of turns away. Grim news. And as she slowly turns, you hear the great doors open to the hall, and you see Jesse. Yeah. Jesse, who's kind of walking in just a few feet ahead of Lucas. And Lucas is walking in. He looks battered and beaten in a way. Obviously war-torn, but, still moving. He's not really disabled or anything.
But Lucas is still cheerful and trying to cheer him up.
You mean Jesse? Oh, Lucas, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's 8 days to the coast, boy. You've been gone 4.
It's like we need to rescue his sister.
Sorry, it's only funny because Reorg was gonna say something, and then Lucas steps in.
I'm peeking over people's shoulders because I'm shorter than everyone, trying to see what's going on.
Yeah, so Lucas kind of chimes in, and Reorg tries to speak around him, but Lucas is talking. Lucas, what did you say?
Oh, we gotta rescue his sister. She got taken.
Okay. You can form whatever opinion you want of Lucas, but then a Reorg.
I'm sure Raznak already has an opinion of Lucas. There's a reason he doesn't go on the raids.
Father,
and he's at the secondary gate.
On our way to the seashore, we took a shortcut. There's always been tales of beasts and lizards and, dragons, but no one ever thought. No, yeah, okay, so yeah, he makes a high-pitched, enjoyable sound, we took the pass through Silver Steam Spring, and I think it's true. There were beasts in the steam that could fly over the water. They were large. They seemed to not breathe fire, but breathe steam. Maybe they caused the mist, but I lost the others as we traveled through, and when I reached the other side, I returned to where I started. I looked everywhere, but I could
Who
hear him
chose the
screaming
path,
in
boy?
pain. Yeah,
You
he
know,
shuts up immediately. He shuts up immediately when you talk, right? So I did, Father. I
we
thought it
know
would
we,
save us time.
but you know the springs are forbidden.
Do you have any strategies? Is there any way you want him to feel? Otherwise, he's your good son who respects you, shuts up when you talk, and you know,
I think that he's trying to. I mean, he's next, right?
yeah.
He's the next chief, and so I think he's trying to impress me. And
Everyone knows
I
the
think,
other daughter is really like your eye.
yeah, and I think that's what it is. Is he's next, but he's always stood in his younger sister's shadow, and then they both cast like this really dark, really long shadow over Anya. But like
It's
quite
like,
often, people don't remember I have 3 children; they only think I have 2. But
well, I mean,
um,
I imagine Anya's like really pale too. Like she never goes out of
mhm.
the house. Like if
Yeah,
she like
like
ventures
she was
outside,
supposed to be the next shaman, but has no aptitude in that either. It's
she
just all
doesn't leave,
science,
right? Yeah,
right? And so,
she's like the worst
so
combination of you and your wife.
I know we sometimes have conversations about where she actually came from. But I look at him because I mean he's always trying. He's trying to be. Unfortunately, he's trying to be me, and that isn't what I want, and it's never what I've wanted. I've wanted him to be, I want him to be the best version of himself, and I know he can be, but he always tries to be me and be his sister. And so he makes these kind of, I think personally, he probably makes these reckless command decisions regularly.
Yeah.
And so right now, my statement of who chose the path boy, there's no surprise when his response is that it was me.
Now, the only thing that is interesting about that is that his sister also was with him. So
Mhm.
when you said that in your head, you can imagine that the two of them probably bickered about this.
Right. Yeah, they probably and she probably fought with him, and he probably pulled rank. In essence, the springs are forbidden, boy. You've known since you were a child.
His head's lowered. Father, we have to go back. They have Iglet.
You go nowhere. I
Sorry,
go.
that's me laughing.
And with that, Raznak will stand up, and I mean Raznak's a good 7 feet tall, of just iron.
Yeah. Father, you
and
can't go. Who would rule in your stead if anything happens? It would be
silence,
my
boy. You will lead should I fall. I've given you the tools, and your mother is here. But you lost them, and I will get them back.
Freya, sorry, Greta. She walks up to you. I don't know why now. Freya, it's like in my head. That is like the most motherly word name you could have for
Right.
like a wise
For a
woman in
Viking.
this culture. Yeah. So Greta, is still like right at your side, and she looks to you. Raznak, his words ring true. I don't feel it's the best for you to go. There's something different about this.
And then Lucas interjects, dragons!
Yeah, in the background, you just, dragons!
I'll kind of pull Greta off to the side, kind of out of earshot of anyone else.
Of course, yeah.
And I'll look at her and I'll say, I don't often dream, but last night I dreamt of mist and wings. Dreams I've not had since we were children.
Remember the story you told me of your sword? Why it's called Stormbringer? These dragons, if they truly breathe the mist, you are not going to be welcome there.
No, I won't. But unfortunately, they have our daughter. And they have the sons of those I lead. What kind of chief will I be if I leave them to die? Or if I send more to die for them?
What strategy would you like to use to win that conversation?
By my love.
By my left. All right. Sounds like a reasonable use. You were sitting in your chair amongst your people, talking to your wife about what you truly love. That's a very reasonable use of it.
That's double ones.
Awesome. So when we have doubles, and clearly 2 ones is a success, we have what's called a perfect success. So we start with, in this case, Jesse, because he's to your right in what I see. So, Jesse, what's the best possible thing that could happen for Raznak here, or for the story going forward?
For Raznak, given that he's very scared and of like, yeah, the dragon's not going to welcome them. I think, well, best things was, I think that what he would do and what would kind of be best for this story, I think, would be him to not like agree he shouldn't go, but yes, we do need to rescue his sister and whoever else might have been captured, especially if they were captured by dragons.
Okay. Now we move on to Morgan. So you heard what he said. What do you think is the best possible thing that could happen for Raznak? Or Raznak with moving the story forward?
And I agree with what he said.
Okay. You've heard what they said, Erik. So, of course, you could take all that into consideration. When it's a perfect success, you get the last say because you should have the most influence on the GM of what happened. But yeah, I mean, you could go to town. What do you think is the best possible thing that could happen?
The story is Raznak goes, and Raznak goes alone. And Anya and Jesse, because he's interested in dragons, sneak out to help.
That sounds great to me. Okay, so why don't you montage that a little bit for me? What does that look like? You leaving the hall?
Okay.
You telling everyone that you must go alone?
Okay. So
bird's eye view, but yeah, what does that look like? It sounds like
as Raznak walks to the back of the hall, and in the back of the hall behind, he has this bone chair that has been built for him, and it's no fancier or more ornate than any other chair in the hall, because he does not view himself as above those that he cares for. It's bone, and it's made out of the bones of, lots of things. But behind that is a single dummy, the same way that Anya was fighting, and it has his very ceremonial armor on it, kind of his ancestral armor, and Stormbringer is resting on pegs there above it. And as he's putting it on, there are just tons of youth from the village who are hearing what's happening, and they are filtering in and kneeling down and swearing that they're coming, and he just ignores every single one in order. And he walks up and he kisses his wife, and he kind of looks at Anya, and kneels down, because he is close to her. Like, she's a disappointment, but he is close to her, and he kind of presses his forehead to hers, and he clasps his son's arm, and he just glares at Lucas a lot. And he clasps his son's arm, and he says, "Until I return, the tribe is yours. Lead them better than you led those at the spring."
I will not let you down, Father.
And he nods, and he heads his way out, and as he's going, you just see him, and he's clasping arms of various old people, and old men who haven't hefted weapons in years are like, "I'll come with you, I'm grabbing weapons," and he shakes them aside. Meanwhile, back up it pans back up, as up to the hill, and she can, they can see the gate from the longhouse, and she sees him walk out the gate. Greta does. And as she turns under her breath, she says, "If he goes alone, he dies." And she doesn't realize that Anya is standing right there, and she can hear her mother say these words. And her mother, she's never seen her mother cry, ever. But her mother has a single tear down her cheek that catches in the reflection, and that kind of is the end of that sequence, as the camera kind of pans around and Greta walks away, and there's that just single diamond tear but just through it, you can see Anya kind of there underneath like a table, going like, "Oh shit, he can't die." And so at that moment, she kind of galvanizes that she's got to go get him. She's got to go help him.
Yeah, Lucas is like, please don't try to kill any more dragons. It's like they'll create even more animosity and they'll burn this whole village down.
So that was one of the voices that was spoken while you were gearing up, I guess.
Yeah,
that's
you're just
probably
like,
what you glared at him. Yeah.
Yeah, others are like, "I'll come with you," and you just go, "Please don't kill them, please."
Speaking of Anya, though, okay, so obviously, that happens. So your mother sheds a tear, and the people in the Riorg sits the chair and starts telling the men what they can do, and he does start telling them to basically prepare for battle in case of the worst. It's not his first rodeo, and he's not a total idiot, so he wants to make sure that this place is protected, especially if the wrath of these dragons is brought upon his family and his home. So that's kind of what's starting to happen is people are starting to like mobilize, grab armor, move out, head into the town and start spreading the word. They don't plan on leaving, but they're planning on being ready in case of a need. So Anya, you see your mother shed that tear and this happening in the background. What do you do?
I easily make my way through the crowd because no one pays much attention to me and I'm smaller than most of the people there. And
what are your tags again?
Analytical, laughing stock, observing, and batshit crazy.
Okay. Thanks.
But basically I slip through the crowd and out through the doors where I can see like a vantage point sort of like the land around. And I look in the direction of the springs everyone's talking about. And I've never been outside of the village. I've always wanted to because, frankly, the village bores me at this point. There's nothing new here for me. It's the same same routine every time. I've been wanting to leave for a while, but I've never been able to bring myself to do it and to like leave my family behind. But now I have a reason I could leave. And it's to protect someone I care about and want to impress. And I decide in that moment, like looking out across the land at the springs, that I need to go.
Now, you heard your father, and you know of most of the typical ways that you could go that you would be stopped. All the reasons why you don't get to leave town. You're not allowed to unless you have express permission from your father or you're leaving with your father or your mother. But we also know that your character has one secret way of sneaking out from time to time. You haven't really been able to see the land because of it, but sometimes you can sneak out a little bit by sea.
Indeed.
The whole time you did hear Lucas, who does seem he's the only person voicing having a voice of dissent, and it's not a voice of like don't do it because we don't need to save those people. It's like, well, save them, but don't hurt the dragons. So you do have a like-minded. You have one other person that everyone else is ignoring right now and not taking seriously.
And I'm fascinated by this talk of dragons that that's been sort of like mythified my whole life. No one's really quite sure if they're actually there or not. And so I'm very curious about them. And this boy seems to have knowledge of them, or at least he acts like it.
He's very able-bodied. I mean,
he does very well in the sporting arena. He doesn't do well in actual field combat. He does very well in the sport arenas.
So I'd probably make my way over to him and like pull on his arm and try to get him to explain to me why he's saying the things he is.
Oh, it's like, well, they have a hive mind, and it's like I think they might already have a grudge against him. We need to like reconcile and apologize and tell and show that we can be friends and coexist with them and not be just ravaging hunters hunting them for or just killing them for for just to show that we're the best raiders in town, in the world.
Jesse, what strategies does your character have that would help you convince someone that you know what you're talking about?
It's kind of a poor fit, but probably nature is the best fitting one. But it's not a very good fit.
No, that sounds good. Yeah, let's use imagine in nature, and let's see how well you actually worded that in a way that sounded respectable or authoritarian. Because yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't take you seriously, but if it sounds good, it may impress her. So
okay.
Or if it sounds sciencey.
Yeah.
6 on nature is an exact meet, and a 4 on imagine, which is success by 1.
Okay, so you got 1 success. Do you have any tags that would help you impress our scientist here?
Tags. Probably being a dragon and xenophile because he's showing positivity toward dragons. It's just, he's also a general animal friend, so he can befriend like most forms of animals in the wild. And call them to come take food from him and things like that.
Sure. You mentioned like the dragon ophile or whatever, the friendly part. You might be able to, say so many good things about dragons that kind of wins her over while still sounding like knowledgeable. So why don't you re-roll that die, the one that failed, and see if it helps.
I rolled the same exact thing, another 6.
Okay. So you had a 4 and a 6. All right. So you got 1 success. Now it's worth mentioning at this point, the reason you're re-rolling that 1 die is because at the bottom middle of your character sheet, there's a little chart called the benefits of belief. Okay. So every character starts with 4 belief. That's those little grade bubbles you have out of 10. With that, it allows you to use the abilities below 4 or equal to or below 4, which right now is the belief 2 ability, which is called hope, which means you could spend 2 belief to create a double success when you need it. Or as long as you have more than 1 belief, you also have the 1 tag ability, which is free to use, and that allows you to re-roll 1 failed die every time you roll dice, if necessary to help you. So that's where this whole tag re-roll thing's coming in.
Okay.
So it's worth mentioning now that every one of the player characters could also buy a double success when they need it, as long as they don't roll a critical first. Okay. How you get more belief is when we hit these milestones. Generally, you're going to gain more belief, unless we have a lot of problems leading up to it, which then you might lose belief in the process. So, okay. So you rerolled, you had 1 success, but there's a catch. Okay, so Anya, he sounds like he really adores dragons. He knows a lot about dragons. If he's right, I mean, you don't know if he's full of shit, but he does seem to be very well knowledge in the outside world. And unfortunately, the only things you know about the outside world are what you've read or heard about. You don't have firsthand experience. So it sounds like he knows what he's talking about of being outside and outdoors, which might be very valuable to you. If you actually wanted to go after your father, I don't know if that's something you really want to do.
Hive mind? How on earth do you know what a hive mind is?
It's like bees that they have a common purpose. There's a queen. I don't know if the dragons have a queen or if it's a true hive, but
saying dragons are like bees.
Kinda.
Really big bees.
Does sound very intriguing.
But bees have hive minds because they don't have enough brains to have their own consciousness. Dragons are enormous creatures.
Well, who says smarter people can't have hive minds too? And they may not be exactly like bees. They might be just something that the race that just everybody's minds are together. At least that's what the book says.
You start getting in a debate.
What book?
Oh, want me to show you?
Yes.
What was his friend's name again? Lucas's friend's name?
Reorg.
Yeah, he's like, he invites Reorg to come along too, and he says, "I'll show you."
Well, Reorg's on the throne. He's acting chief at present.
Doing business things.
Oh, what things?
He's kind of marshaling people around, giving orders. Yeah.
Okay.
He looks to you.
Okay, it's like, okay, then we'll go get the book. We'll bring it out so we can go over it together.
Okay. So, long story short, it sounds like eventually he's going to give you enough proof. So it sounds like another one of those moments we're going to let you both kind of like montage as he finds more and more books that are interesting, but not quite scientifically proof. And eventually you're kind of forced to be like, all right, fine, let's just go. I actually also like the idea too that Jesse probably Lucas probably has like all these books with him.
Yeah.
So you guys like sneak out onto this sailboat that you have, and he's got like a sack full of books, which of course is super useful when you go out dragon hunting. So, is there anything that either of you would bring that you find of importance for your trip?
Oh, he's gonna bring his bracelet.
Okay.
He's like, I'm gonna show off friends of the dragons. I will not kill them.
My character would bring a bag of the basic necessities needed for traveling.
Sure.
Okay. Probably a knife of some kind. And then
I do like in my head, yeah, you have like a satchel with like everything like perfectly placed in the pouch of like, you know, everything's brand new, never been used, like untouched.
And then note/sketchbook that I scientific doodles and notes.
Okay. All right. So two of you go on your escapade. Do either of you have any strategies that would help you navigate by sea?
The only nature, it's indirect again.
Sure. That's good.
I'm very observing.
Okay. Morgan, is there any way that your character generally navigates by sea?
Mostly it's stay within sight of the shore, and I use that as my guide.
Okay. Any one of your strategies that would help you?
Could be either indirectly, both problem solving and scientific analyzing.
Let's go with scientific analyzing. Let's say this is a reasonable use. I mean, you probably built the boat. you use it, like you said, as long as you keep by the shore, it's your practice of how you kind of understand how this works. You don't actually try to navigate the ship itself very well. You just know how, like, if I stay this far from the shore and I stay along it and the sails are blowing in the right direction, I can just continue, I can keep it going in the way that it is.
Yeah, Lucas are kind of like, well, just watch the cues of nature, the sunsets and the colors of the sky and the stars in the sky. He's not going to have any concept of pole star or anything, but it's like in the stars and the sun.
Also, I am so sorry, but I need to use the bathroom really quickly.
Yeah, go for it. Okay.
Thank you.
Flipping back, so we have our benevolent ruler who has left the town of Trondheim, and you are now seeing it in the distance for the first time in quite some time. I mean, it's been probably, let's say, a season since you've really left, especially by yourself. It's been a long time since you've been out by yourself. Not that you're afraid or anything. It's just different.
Yeah.
You have no one to share any of this opportunity with, and the only voice you have is that voice in your head. So as you're walking, what thoughts do cross the mind of the king in this place? The thoughts of that last battle with the dragon. Thought of seeing one again.
I know that she's out there, right? I know that the dragon queen is still there. While I have slain a dragon, I have never, I faced the dragon queen as a youth, and I always knew that someday I'd be back, and I know that chances are that I won't ever make it home. But hopefully, if I must sacrifice something here, I can bring this conflict to an end.
Do you walk or do you ride a horse?
I walk.
Okay. You do find as you're walking and having these thoughts that in one of your pockets you do have that magical firestone that you've had with you for so long of a time. All of these thoughts remind you of when you found it, and when you found it was the last time that you did face these dragons. it was something that, Greta was there. Greta, it was part when she was young and she wasn't, the shaman that she is today. And she told you that the Firestone would be important. You've never found a use for it, but it was there the day that the deed with the dragon happened. You also have the Grail, which was a cup, basically just something that you had ravaged from that experience as well, that you've always had as like, that's been your trophy. That's been the thing that it always takes you back to the fun parts of what has built your legacy, built your reputation. But you do kind of like in your pockets have these things that you've even taken with you on your journey because they're always with you. Just like travelers that bring a cup. You just have a fancy one. And we can kind of watch you walking in the distance as you head towards the steamy silver spring. Anya, so in your case, you wanted to roll a reasonable use of your scientific analyzation.
Yes.
How'd you do? Or
1 success.
Okay. Any tags that would help you?
The fact that I'm analytical.
Okay, which makes sense, knowing all the details of keeping this right on course. So re-roll, see how you do.
Still 1 success.
Okay, so you're navigating, not too much of an issue. Jesse is talking about the stars and the sky and the travel. The day will become night. It was probably late afternoon anyway. So I imagine you eat and time just kind of passes as your first night outside, away from the hospitality of home in a long time. For Jesse, I bet you Lucas is pretty excited about this because it's been so often that you've been left home time and time again.
Yeah, he's disappointed that I forgot his name again.
Reorg.
Yeah.
Reorg couldn't come. But other than that, he's happy and he's like just right on the bow on the deck of the ship and all happy and cheery.
Okay. We're gonna skip a couple days and put Raznak at in the steamy the silver, what was it? Yeah, the Silver Steam Springs outer reaches. So eventually you will reach the water side, which is kind of a bay where this spring, the river meets basically in your case, we'll just call it a bay. Like it's maybe it's the ocean or a Great Lake. It's kind of hard for you to know, but a large body of water.
Where water drops off.
And at this location, it has an uncanny and almost unnatural amount of steam that creates a fog that's very dense and hard to navigate through. And generally, that's why people avoid it. It's just that you don't really know what's out there. You're not really worried about, the dangers, but you could get lost. You could fall in the water, or you could, whatever. So you find yourself basically staring at this sort of foreboding, foggy mist ahead of you. That's kind of eerily quiet. Not that you're a character to be afraid of it, but there is always that what lies unseen within, especially you saw your son's eyes. You saw his face. He's never been one to tell tall tales.
Right.
So you believe him when he said he saw these. He could be wrong because he's never seen one in real life that you know of. But
this is where I met her, right? This is where I did my battle the first time.
I think that's probably the best fit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my thought is like, it didn't always used to be this steam. It didn't always used to be this problem. And that's kind of all started after my battle. And so we avoid it because I feel like I caused this problem. I've cut off this whole chunk of our island from everyone else.
What I like with that idea is that from what you've heard in the past, or from what your experience was, you dealt with a fire-breathing dragon, and the battle created the fog, that dense mist from all the fire that was spewed in the region, and it almost uncannily never faded away.
Yeah.
So it's almost like this mythical, unchanging, defying the laws of science sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, it's completely unnatural. It's just incorrect.
Which has led everyone to believe that there was no dragons and that they must be gone. But at the same point, no one's actually gone back to the precise spot because how could you? So, when your son mentioned that he went in, he came out the same place. Of course, there's always going to be some strange idiot or some guy who's braver than he is. Uh, he's got more courage than he is smart. So, I mean, there have been stories before of people getting lost in here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not uncommon. When you reach the outside, we're going to create a challenge, which is basically how you could possibly find the dragons, or maybe how they find you. So to find the dragons, you have to navigate this mist. So when we create a challenge, I come up with a mind, body, and spirit for it.
Okay.
Which reflects the people in the situation and how difficult I think it should be on a 1 to 10 scale. So to outsmart the foggy mist of dragons who may or may not want to be found, to find your daughter and the other missing folks, I think that that is probably a 6. It is not the craziest thing I've ever heard of, but you are alone, so it actually makes it a little harder. You don't have anyone to pass thoughts on or even try to, hey, well, I was over here and you were over here, and now that we're yelling, you have no way to locate yourself. So body of the challenge, physically, it's not too, I mean, if you spend enough time here, you can navigate the whole area. But I would say that's a 7, right? Because it just take forever.
Right.
You need many nights, many days. Spirit, if you could somehow get them to come out by calling for them, yelling for them, talking for them, trying to find them, that probably is your easiest way, but it also could lead right into straight up battle in an ambush way that could be the worst for you. So that could be a 5. Okay. So we get 6 mind, 7 body, 5 spirit. There's 3 tags, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's dragons. And with dragons, I'm just going to put in parentheses hive mind because that's the part that's interesting here. The other problem is the fog, naturally. And the third problem is that you have innocent life that you care about. So doing something dangerous may actually have problems that you're like, dude, my daughter's that is my legacy. She's the one who's going to make sure that my son, after I pass away, doesn't do something that destroys my tribe. So there is the threat that you wouldn't mind giving yourself, but the fact that you could risk, the future. Yeah. So in your case, how are you going to try to find the dragons, navigate, and find the others? We got to frame it into a role. So what would be your first action?
Okay. And this is using my strategies, or this is not using?
This is using your strategies.
Okay. So I think I'm going to, I'm going to take a minute, and I'm going to consider the fact that I've been here before. I know, that the memory of that day and the friends I lost and the damage that was done. There were only 2 people who came back. Right, Greta and I are the only 2 people who walked away from this spring the first time.
Okay.
I will never forget where I was when that happened, and
Awesome.
I have sworn by my blade that should any threat come down, I'm going to, I will return, and I will have my vengeance if it's necessary. And so I would like to creatively use by my blade.
Okay, so by your blade is like a land. I was gonna say landstone, no, like a some words are escaping me tonight. Like a landmark in your mind. You can photographically remember your sword, the placement where it was, the location, and using that as a stretch, right? So imaginative use of by the sword. Why don't you roll that?
Okay.
Now the interesting thing here is in a challenge, what amplifies the difficulty is if I feel that goes. I can justify why dragons, hive mind, the fog, or innocent life could stand in your way. I'm going to have you reroll your successes one time.
Okay, so I got a 2 and a 4, so I got 2 successes.
Great. Given the situation, it's pretty fair to say you still got to find it in the fog.
Right.
And this fog is it's changed the landscape more than you could possibly imagine. Because everything you remembered was this open area, and then not so much in the flames burned so much that what is regrown and changed in time doesn't look the same, even if you could see it all. Right. So re-roll both those dice and see if there's still successes.
Okay. I got a 1 and a 5, and I have 5s and 5s.
All right. So you got 1 success. Okay. Do you have any tags that would help you in this fog? Find the things that would kind of jog your memory.
Probably experienced. I've been here.
Sure. Yeah, a perfect example, right? You are experienced with this place like no other. So yeah.
That's another 1.
Okay.
So
what was the first
one? Double. That's double 1s.
Oh, Jesus. Mr. Perfect Success. All right. So, what happens when you get a perfect success? The best part of this actually is that this was the first roll of the challenge. So, I always play with the optional rule that means you one shot the challenge.
Okay.
Because I love one shots and I think that they shouldn't be removed from games entirely. You know, so what happened is you start going as if it was like some kind of meditative state into your mind and seeing the things you need to see around you.
Okay.
As if it was your destiny. You were finding the spring is unchanging. Follow the water. The rocks that cannot be melted by fire alone, that don't need to regrow over time, are unchanging. So you're finding everything you need to find to navigate your way. But Jesse, what do you think is the best possible thing that could happen for him to find the dragons or find the people? What would be the best light for that to happen?
Something that he follows maybe not something exact because things have changed, but a pattern that still holds very true.
Interesting.
Something in nature.
Morgan, what do you like? What do you think is the best possible thing that helps him find his way back?
Actually, I really like that as well. Some sort of like layout of the land that sort of shows like movement of something has sort of warped the land slightly to like stay out of its path. And it all sort of funnels in ever so into a particular point.
Erik, what do you think about that? I mean, could Greta have done something, or you done something in the past?
I like those two ideas together. But my idea is what it is I'm following, what it is that has never changed, is the other firestones that lead the way home.
And maybe
so as I walk,
as you get closer.
Yeah, as I get close, my stone glows and its sister stone glows. And then I feel the pull, and I'm following the firestones, which had no reaction to the fire. They have no reaction to the water. They are as immutable as time itself.
Okay. So with that, the others on their boat, the two of them have navigated, and unfortunately in your case, they have navigated into the fog because they're coming by sea. So before they even know where they are, they're already in the fog. But they see strange glowing lights in the distance that seem to kind of light as little beacons, drawing their attention. Would the two of you follow the lights if you had nothing else to go by?
Yes.
If it follows the pattern of where we are to find his sister, yeah.
Sure, and conveniently, the nice thing here is that what they'll lead you is upstream, and that'll be a good sign, because as soon as you find out, you go, oh, well, we know that the place is called the Silver Steam Spring, so finding the river itself would be naturally what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But you still are navigating this very, very dense fog. Leaving us, of course, getting straight up to Rasnak, you find the mouth of a cave. You still haven't heard any voices or any noise. But now that you reach the cave, there is a weird sort of whirling, spiraling sound of like a large draft, right? That kind of captures and kind of rolls around and echoes in this cave, giving you some idea of like the depth and the width of the insides. And obviously there must be other ways in for the wind to be traveling through it and such, kind of whistling.
My goal, obviously, in this voyage is to locate my father. And if he had come by land, not like us, since we came by the sea, he would not have come across this cave. He would have come across in a different section of the spring. So, as with my current goal, I have no interest of going towards these caves.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so maybe instead of coming to the mouth, maybe you would have found like another entrance. Maybe the way you left, right? Because maybe you didn't like run from a dragon out the front of the cave. Maybe there was like a human-sized path to the side, and that's where your stones would have led you. Was the way you came out the first time. Because if there's more dragons, you didn't kill them all, So maybe it was one of those things where like, that would have been death. That would have been suicide. But you had the way you came in and the way you came out.
Well, and the firestones light. My firestone lit all the firestones. And so there's firestones throughout the whole area leading to these various caves, but we don't necessarily come to the same one.
Okay.
I came to the back door, whereas they come to the probably where we entered the first time as a raid, is they probably found the one that's on the ocean. It's on the bay itself.
Okay. So
That's
sliding
probably
back
what
then.
we're looking for too. Going by the part descriptions.
So sliding back to that then, so the two of you that are on the sailboat find yourself heading down the spring, or upstream, I should say. And as you do, the path of the river becomes narrower to maybe double the width of your sailboat. So you imagine the water is not very deep anymore, and it is struggling to go upstream. But there is something strange about kind of how it breaks it. It's not impossible, but you will have to get off the boat soon. Is that something you're going to do before it could possibly cause damage to the boat, or are you going to try to take as far as you can?
We don't want to run this thing aground, so
yeah, I get off. I don't want to damage this boat. I've spent too long trying to make it.
Okay. We'll just give you that, right? And the two of you get off the boat. Do you have some way? And we'll give you that you have some way to stake it or tie it, or drag it up, upstream a little bit so that it's like not gonna go away.
Yeah, we should have ropes and anchors on.
I would have brought stuff like that with me.
As the two of you head towards following the spring, basically, you find yourself in front of a very strange stone, or at least it seems like stone at first, structure. I think that Jesse's character, so Lucas, as you walk up to it, you would be interested in it, and then it would remind you of your bracelet, and you would find that the two of you are kind of walking up into, from the backside, a skull of a dragon.
Like, does it like look like it's presented as a trophy, or just something that's just out there?
Is it a literal skull or something that resembles a skull?
It is a literal skull that you just couldn't quite make out in the fog. So the two of you basically walk up into the backside of the head of what would be a very large dragon, right? Where its skull would be the size of, like a room for the two of you. Not like the hall that you came from, but, like a room. So maybe it's, 8-9 feet tall. And the two of you find yourself in what you thought maybe was like a little cave or outside structure. And then once you're inside it, you can kind of make out that this is the skull of a dragon. A very large one at that.
It's just sitting there. It's not like on a pike or like
no.
Like being displayed. Okay.
And as you wander around, you could find more of the bones of obviously a body that had laid here a very long time ago and had decomposed. And of course, what was once pearly white would be like a rotted yellow. Not necessarily rotted, but it would be like faded and aged in yellow.
You will probably give it some homage by well, you probably can't pick up the skull. It's probably gonna be too heavy for him. But it'll touch his forehead to it, the skull's forehead, and says, "If only if I could be friends with you when you were alive."
And while he's doing that, I'm running my hand over it and knocking on it, trying to figure, identifying this is bone, trying to figure out how old it is.
Sure. As you're kind of dating it, it seems to be something like, how old is Ragnak? Raznak? I'm sorry, Ragnak.
Raznak. Sorry, I got distracted. I thought I heard my kids screaming, so I was trying to listen.
That's okay. So yeah, how old is Raznak? Because this dragon is obviously from your battle.
Early 50s.
Okay, so we'll say that it's probably 30 years ago. So yeah, it seems to be aged, let's say 28 years. As this is happening now, Jesse, do you have any strategies to help you deal with something that could surprise you?
Let's see. I think they're both very indirect. Very haphazard would be his athletics, because that does require a lot of perceptive ability to play sports, paying attention to 22 things on the field at the same time, but also nature to be aware and tracking things.
I like nature in this case that you don't know what it is. So why don't you roll? I was going to say imagine. Why don't you roll reason? That could be a reasonable thing. Roll reason, nature.
Okay. 5 5 and a 2, so those are both successes.
Okay. You see something moving, and it's obviously trying to stay out of sight of you. As you peer out the holes that once were eyes and nostrils and the gaps between teeth of this giant skull. And it's something of reasonable size. It has a tail, as you can see it kind of winding as it continues to try to move out of sight. It's a little too big to completely hide from you. But with the fog, that's the only benefit it has. And it seems to kind of camouflage with the fog. It seems to be silver in nature, or gray, if you will. So this white sort of silhouette figure that obviously has a long tail and is scaly, which will make more and more sense. But the thing that's interesting is it almost emits a mist from its body, from its scales themselves. So as you kind of see this and it moves around and it's looking, you can tell by the size of the tail that it seems to be something. In your case, you're like, oh, maybe it is a dragon. And it wouldn't be the largest dragon you've ever seen. Not that, from your books, right? Yeah. It's not this guy, but it could be something that could be more of like a fledgling, or maybe a young adult.
Dragon is dragon. I don't think it'd be like totally like going crazy, but I think he will like he would like trying to find a squirrel or something like, and kind of like leave her to her thing because he's just worried about.
I'm paying no attention.
Right? Yeah, you're like, I think this is 28, maybe no 29 years, and he is like peering through holes, playing peekaboo with some sort of a beast.
Yeah, and he's gonna approach slowly and look as non-threatening as possible, right. And like because he's acting like he's trying to befriend a squirrel and not spook it. Yeah, and it's like. He's like, hi, Mr. Are you Dragon? Hi, Mr. Dragon.
Which one of your strategies would help you do this?
That'll probably nature again.
Certainly. Okay. It sounds like you're using a reasonable use of nature. This would be a reasonable practice of how you would approach things. But then again, it might be imaginative because it's kind of a stretch that works for all animals and beasts. So let's go and use reason, though. I think they're the same for you anyway. But
they're the same anyway.
Yeah.
So 20 and a 7, 1 success.
Okay. Any tags that would help you?
This is Dragon Xenophile, animal friend.
Yes. Okay. So go and reroll your failed die and see if it holds.
No, that's an 8.
Okay, so in your case, you are walking towards it. It sounds like you're being real nice and trying not to spook it. It continues to kind of like gingerly move around. Obviously, doesn't seem offensive. It seems more curious, and it is wondering what is here and what they're doing. But it doesn't seem like it wants to come towards you, but it isn't running away either. So you're making progress towards it, which again is going to lead Anya to Anya. You notice that he has disappeared, and then when you notice him, you can see again through the eye holes and the gaps in the teeth and the sides of the skull that you can see that he's 10 feet away, and he's kind of like tiptoeing and creeping, and he's talking really softly. That's how you find him at first because it's hard to actually physically see him until you can kind of locate him by voice.
He's just gonna play it patient, and he's not gonna chase after him. He wants him to come to him. So if he doesn't come to him, if he wants to go, he's just gonna let him go. Okay. But he's gonna continue to try to be friendly with this dragon, and hope he establishes some kind of rapport.
Anya, what do? Eventually, if you just spend enough time watching and wandering, you'll notice that he's following something. But at first, you just see him being weird.
Mm-hmm. At first glance, I figure he's doing what he normally always ends up doing around the village, which is being strange. Not that my character can talk much, but
I would give it to you that you're smart enough and deductive enough that you would assume that he's actually like trying to approach something that he thinks is a creature or animal, like something he thinks could run away or be scared. So,
and probably at first I would just think it's any normal sort of animal, like the things you see around the village, like no different. and go back to like what I'm examining. But it's piqued my curiosity, and despite how much I want to focus on my task at hand, I keep like my hearing keeps drifting to try to hear what he's saying and paying less attention to what I'm like examining, and that's frustrating me.
Okay.
You may or may not pick up the word dragon among the speech.
Okay, so Lucas, you start following the dragon. You're being very kind. You're basically walking it down until a point where you kind of unwittingly trap it between you and Anya, which would begin to spook it. Do you have? You want to give me another roll, or do you have anything else you'd like to try to see if you can basically calm it when it would start to be alarmed?
Nature's his most relevant tag.
Okay.
Anything
This
more
time
relevant.
it's imagined because you kind of don't have all the time in the world. It's now spooked. There's a little bit of issue with that. So roll imagine and roll nature.
Okay. 30 and 8, one success.
Okay. Any tags that would help you? Do you have a relationship with Anya?
Yes, I do.
It's always worth mentioning.
It's a little bit one-sided, but it is apparently because he's more friends with her than she with him.
It's always worth mentioning that one of the reasons why all these things are called tags is you can use any tag that you can justify that's anywhere in your scene, whether it's on other people and your things and the location, if there was a challenge, for example. So, like, for example, is there any way that she could help you with one of her tags?
So, I don't know what are her tags. I forgot what they were.
So the first one for the two of you is what tags do you have for each other?
I do not have one for him.
Okay, but he has you as a friend.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. It was a one-sided relationship.
Which is fine. Which could be fine. Is you could try to use that if you want to, or of course you could use one of your other tags. But she is a friend, and if it's trapped between the two of you, you might be able to use her to help coordinate.
Yeah. I don't want to cause the dragon to spook and pounce on her, so I see that as being a motive.
Yeah.
But I think right now we're kind of too focused on our own task for that tag to be applicable.
Okay. Any other tags you want to try?
Well, yeah, probably the same two tags: total dragon xenophile and animal friend.
Okay, let's try animal friend because you're assuming that like any animal, if it fits, it's going to get hostile on attack.
Yeah. That is a 4. That's enough to make it a success.
Okay, so 2 successes?
Yep.
Okay, so what do you do to try to calm it? You're worried that it's going to freaking panic. You've whatever you've been doing has been working. It just hasn't quite won it over. You haven't quite tamed it. Sometimes animals just take time. You know, they have to like get equilibrium with you. But what do you do?
I think he's blunt honest, which is probably the only reason he's actually Rywork returns friendship to him is because he's open, blunt, honest, and he's a trusted advisor, even though strange. But I think that's what he's going to do with the dragon. He's going to literally apologize on behalf of what's his name? Raznak.
Raznak. Okay.
Yeah. He's literally going to apologize on his behalf, and it says, it's like I try my best not to convince him to not kill more dragons. It's like I apologize on his behalf, and it's like I know that I'm not him. I can't control his decisions, but I'm so sorry, and I want to be your friend.
Okay, so cutting back to Raznak. Raznak, you have entered this cave. The howling, the whistling, the wind that's blowing, and inside you begin to hear muffled sounds of human beings. You also hear the occasional movement as kind of rocks roll on the ground or along the sides of a cavern, which gives you the impression that there are probably creatures that are moving around here, but they're doing it in a way that makes you think that they either think someone's here or they're trying to be quiet.
Okay.
I mean, it could be their general nature, but I mean, to you, you're like, okay, well, you're on alert thinking that it's a possibility at least.
Right.
What would you like to do?
I want to get closer. I will have removed Stormbringers in this massive sling on my back, because I mean, to anyone but me, it's a big two-handed axe, and I will pull it out and hold it in one hand, and I will clench my hand as tight as I can around the Firestone, and with my big Viking paw, it kind of doles it out, and it is warm, but I'm dealing, and I want just enough light to kind of escape from between my fingers, that I have a little bit of light. And I'm going to slowly kind of advance forward as low to the ground as I can, and see if I can see what I'm guessing are the prisoners.
Okay.
Somewhere.
So what happens here? So Jesse, you are talking truth to this beast, this dragon, right? And as you are, the dragon itself, maybe unwittingly or subconsciously, has this hive mind, and it's transferring these words that are being said to you to all of the others. And us as the audience watching this story unfold can go back to Raznak walking in this deep, dense mist, and all around him along the walls of the cavern are other dragons that are staring right at him. And all you can kind of, in this moment, sort of gather, almost as if there's like this mind bond with you and the dragon itself, is like all of these other beasts are staring at Raznak, but what they're staring at is this red glow that is just kind of humming and sort of like creating an aura in this fog. And as all these beasts are staring at Raznak, and they're all kind of crawling towards him as if they were getting ready to pounce, your words sort of ring in their ears as it just transfers amongst all of them. And it gives them all enough reason to pause for the moment. Though if you could hear what the dragon heard, though, is you also hear that slow unsheathing sound of a sword that's just sliding out of a sheath. So with that, we hit the first milestone. So you have had a moment where you have had a mind bond with a dragon.
Just a few seconds.
Yeah. So you've begun this link, which is something we're going to explore in a minute with this beast in front of you. When we hit a milestone, it's important to me to try to make it something that is a defining moment for your character. So why don't you tell me, what does this feel like to your character? And what does it look like if we were the audience watching? Like, what happens to Lucas when he has this like moment where he actually gets to tap into the creatures he loves? He fascinates over.
I think he's kind of excited, but he also hears that short sword unsheathing.
Yeah.
If he's looking at the Raznak, that's going to kind of partially negate and ruin everything. So it's like, while he's excited, he's going to try to broadcast his very first broadcast into this link, which he's not entirely sure about. And it's like, try to talk. He may not try to immediately kill you. He's trying to rescue his daughter.
Anya, as typical, right? You kind of hear all of these words and not know what is going on. Who is he talking to? Why is he talking to this? Is he talking to you? I mean, that's the only rational thing. Meanwhile, characters. So we hit a milestone. We didn't have a challenge that defeated anyone. The only challenge we had got slammed by Raznak. So no one lost any belief. So one half of leveling, basically, is everyone's belief is going to go up by 2. So everyone can just raise their belief by 2. You'll notice that gives you a pocket critical success if you need it. And now you can reroll up to 2 tags if you can justify it. The second half of that is you all get to upgrade your characters. Upgrading characters is raising a numerical value by 1. So maybe you want to raise a strategy, maybe you want to raise a soul skill, maybe you want to raise a health score. You could add a new relationship. You could add a new strategy at beginner. Now, you're capped at 7, except for Jesse can raise one of his things to legend if he wants, because it was his milestone.
Okay. Well, I think his most relevant skill to raise is his nature skill. So
certainly, yeah.
Expert.
It's worth mentioning, too, after you do that, you may also want to maybe add something like Mind Link or something with the dragons, right?
Oh, like adding a new tag?
Adding maybe a strategy.
Oh. And what level do I add that at? The lowest?
Yeah, it would be a beginner But if you want to, you don't have to. But it'd be an interesting thing that just kind of popped up story wise.
I think I will.
So what happens here is you get at your first milestone, you all get 2 upgrades. So one of them for Jesse can raise something up to 8 by 1 point, and then his other point works just like everyone else's.
And can we raise soul skills?
You sure can.
Add Mind Link and then upgrade Nature to 7.
Excellent.
And you said we have 2, so we could raise both of our soul skills by.
You sure can. Or you could raise 1 by 2 as long as it was not higher than 7 afterwards.
Okay. Wait now.
And Morgan, do you know what you want to raise?
No.
Okay, so go ahead and do your raise your whatever you're going to raise, Morgan, while you're and we'll just move right into the next milestone. Okay, so the next milestone is about saving someone with science. Now, typically, what we do, right, is we go right into vision rolls, and we would forecast and gain influence in pieces, and see what you guys think. But given shortness of time, we're just going to roll right into it. Especially after the first milestone, we have a lot of direction. We already have a path. It becomes a lot easier. So
am I still batshit crazy?
You still are, but that is the only downside of when I do that is that it doesn't give people an opportunity to change their tags.
Mm-hmm.
But it is worth mentioning if at any time you feel like, hey, someone else might need a tag because they've been playing their character, like Raznak's been very noble, for example. Someone could begin to vote that onto him. Jesse's character has been very
Eerie,
opinionated,
I'm very skeptical.
You've been everything he said was very skeptical. So these are all things that someone could begin to nominate if they wanted to. But since I mentioned it, we'll let you do that in game in a minute if you want to. So saving someone with science. So this was Anya's milestone. The 2 of you, from what I can tell, Jesse, so Lucas, you are kind of really nervous and worried about what you just saw. You had this moment of clarity, and it looked like Raznak was just walking into an ambush where he was going to get like a dozen dragons to descend him at once, and not even have any clue of it.
Yeah, and it was him about to unsheath his sword, and it's definitely going to invite the ambush.
I feel bad for those dragons.
Yeah, and you heard that sword unsheath, and it was almost bone-chilling to you, especially as you were the dragon for a moment. And when you also visually are looking at the dragon, you can see the dragon like it kind of like curls up, sticking its spine up, and then kind of like uncomfortably, as if it was like cold water running down its back, like arches its back in this sort of contortion uncomfort that you can only imagine is that sort of bone, that like nail screeching on a chalkboard of that sword being drawn. And if this is what this dragon's going through, you can only imagine that they're all going through.
Yeah.
What do you do?
And I think Lucas feels anxious with that, and it's probably adding to the collective emotion. Because his emotion is in line with the dragon. This guy's going to pull his sword and start hacking at dragons, and it's going to just ruin everything.
Anya, you're staring at him, and him and this beast, which you can clearly tell is like some kind of gray or silver dragon, are both making a similar contortion as they're both like hunch their backs and then both kind of like twist them as if they had like the worst, grossest thing on their back and they just were trying to let it slide off. And it begins to kind of hiss, and you can see like the fright that's kind of on Lucas's face. I mean, this is really bizarre to you. So
yeah.
What do you do? What do you ask? What do you say?
I get the feeling that something is going seriously wrong, because up until a second ago, Lucas was talking very like calmly and sort of like sweetly to this creature, and the creature almost seemed to be, and yet all of a sudden they both look like they're almost in pain.
Yeah.
And I feel like obliged to go and try to like give some sort of comfort to the situation or like help in some way, but I've never really had much experience with creatures, as I've never really left my village or gone inland off of sea.
So maybe you want to do problem solving? What is your third strategy, by the way? I know we have the scientific like analyzation, and we have problem solving. What's the third one?
Being taken seriously.
Being taken seriously. Awesome. So actually, why don't we make this an imaginative use of being taken seriously? Because to you, he's a goofball, and he is just goofing around again. And you don't know what this beast is, but it's probably the worst timing. It's like there's a dragon. It's not like, a 1 foot tall. I mean, this is like an 8 foot long beast. It could easily tear you two to shreds from what you would imagine. I mean, he could wrestle it if he wanted to or something, but it's bigger than him.
Yeah, if Lucas gains any awareness of her for any, I think his first instinct is to get her, like, link her into.
Okay.
1 success.
Okay. Any tags that would help you try to take this seriously?
I'm batshit crazy.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so you're batshit crazy. So this is really bizarre, but it's so bizarre that it has to mean something, right? So I'll re-roll and see how you do.
Still only 1 success.
Okay. You also have the use of 2 tags now. Is there another tag that can help you?
I have analytical, observing, and laughing stock.
Okay. Which one do you think could help you, and why?
I've heard everything that Lucas has said, right?
Yeah, it sounds like he's talking to you, even though it doesn't make sense that he's talking to you.
So I heard him mentioning Razna.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna use my analytical skill or my analytical tag, and doing that, I put the pieces together that
Awesome.
This occurrence between the two, when they both started acting this way, happened after the mention of Razna, and after the mention that he came here with the intention of possibly hurting dragons, and that Lucas was saying things that, like, he does, like he's just trying to rescue his daughter, and then all of a sudden, after he's been brought up, they're both acting this way. So I figure out that this has something to do with the mention of Razna.
Sounds great. Yeah, roll the die, and hopefully you succeed, because it sounds great to me.
No, don't.
All right. Okay, so you were putting these pieces together, and you're imagining like your mother, and you're like seeing her have a similar ability to kind of tap into other people's feelings. But this is all taking a long time. So while it's not that you're not getting this information, it's just not happening fast enough to be useful. So Raznak, you have this glowing firestone. You then hear hissing that starts to come from all around you, except for below you. It is below you in the way that you were kind of like you came out of a tunnel, if you could imagine it. You're kind of walking down like a slight hill. So it's not, below you, but it is, like below you, but in front of you, right? So it is all around you except for immediately behind you and under you, right? Okay. And you can immediately tell that unless there's some kind of strange echo or some kind of supernatural voice throwing, that this hissing is coming from all different. It must be multiple creatures.
Okay, that I'm surrounded. Okay.
Now they aren't the thunderous sort of roaring or humming or moaning or whatever the noises that the large beasts of old that you faced here, like these great old powerful fire breathing beasts. These sound smaller, so at least you have some comfort in that.
Okay. When Stormbringer was forged, because we forged Stormbringer after this battle out of a remnant of something we found, there is a socket on the hilt of Stormbringer that is shaped for the Firestone, and so I'm gonna slam that stone into the hilt of Stormbringer. And, straight up Conan thrust the sword up into the air so that the light of that firestone spreads out across the cavern.
Oh, boy.
And I picture it as getting brighter as I move into the heart of this mountain.
Okay.
This
is obviously by the sword, right? So it sounds like an imaginative use of by the sword. Why don't you give me a roll and see if anything more of that happens?
Okay. 1 success on that.
Tags.
Refuses to die.
Excellent use. how does that reinforce your character right now? What makes him feel more secure as he jams that gem into the hilt of his sword?
I know that no matter what happens, I part of this is to illuminate the battlefield. Part of this is I have the confidence to know that they know I'm here now.
Yeah.
Right? And no matter what happens, I'm getting my daughter out of here, even if I die here. But I know I will not die until I say so.
Awesome. Reroll and see how you do.
Sorry, I can't see my dice because my angle is weird.
It's okay.
Okay, that's a 2, so it gives me a 3 and a 2, so 2 successes.
2 successes. All right. So you jam that jam that stone into the hilt, and not only does it illuminate, but the fire seems to resonate with the mist when you slap it into Stormbringer, and Stormbringer begins to pierce the mist as it kind of even just gingerly goes through the air, and as it does, anywhere the sword slices begins to separate like the Red Sea, and the two folds of whatever it cuts through will begin to slowly like recede, giving you clarity, right? You can see through as normal. So I mean, you have this ability right now that if you start cutting, you can start really clearing your view, but it is helping in general anyway.
Okay. Yeah, and once I it goes up, but it slices through and I can see it. I mean, I'll straight up Legend of Zelda Link to the Past spin and give myself, the arc, and it's up in the two-handed Conan grip as I look around and see what I can see as the mist slowly recedes. Like I'm not trying to threaten. It's very clear I'm defending myself and being ready, but I do the arc to get myself as much of a clear space as possible.
Okay. Since we're running short on time, we're going to go ahead and make a challenge of this to help us rush through it, right, with actionable pace. So what we're going to do with the challenge for this one is that we need to save someone with science. So I don't know how many turns that's going to take or what form that's going to be, but we're going to give it a number of hit points, basically. And when it's done, we will have figured out how long it takes and where it came from. So with this challenge, you are obviously, in your case, either going to have to stall or fight these dragons, right? So how we can outsmart the dragon is how we would save someone with science, I imagine. So that's actually the easiest result. We're going to give that a 4. With the scientist, if you could figure it out, for giving credit, or if someone else would be, in your case, it'd be kind of hard because of the mind, but you can target the mind. You just, whatever you target, you would get hurt back in kind. So it's the most dangerous for you to try to do things that would one-up them mind-wise.
Right.
Because you're you have 2 points there. So we give it a 4 mind. We're going to give it an 8 body because there's a buttload of dragons and they're pretty powerful. And we'll give that spirit somewhere between. We're going to give it a 6 because we do have a dragon whisper in a way, right? If we could just find the right words to say. But they really don't like Raznak. So the problems here is there's hate for Raznak, right? There's a hate. The other problems are that you're not together or separate, right? If we could work together, maybe this would be perfect. But we're unlinked pieces, separate. And third thing is that, let's see, do we have a third thing? Dragons, probably time, right? The time is that, I don't care how powerful Raznak is.
Raznak's bloodthirsty.
Sure. Well, and then that's kind of going the same way. I mean, like, the more bloodthirsty you are, let's put bloodthirsty. Yeah. Because that could really, right? You might actually be the problem for the other two.
Oh, absolutely. There's, Raznak's going to fight here. And the other two are trying to not.
Right. So why don't just clearly to give that emergent situation, why don't you roll an attack roll? So unless you wanted to do something else, I don't want to force you there.
It just seems pretty clear. Does Raznak see dragons, and does Raznak see his tribe? Like, am I with my arc? Am I able to see people? And is there a dragon guarding my tribe?
When you swing that sword, it clears a view towards the bottom area of the below you, basically,
Mhm.
which allows you to see a lifeless arm
Mhm.
and a lifeless leg associated with the body that you can't make out because the fog hasn't cleared fully at that point. But it's enough for you to recognize that it's one of your people.
Mhm.
And at the same time, the first of the dragon's going to begin to pounce, because as soon as they see you clearing their advantage, they're smart predators, and they're going to start using it to their advantage if they still can.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's enough for you, but that's as much as you get.
Absolutely. Yeah, as soon as I see a lifeless arm and a lifeless leg, and I hear the pounce, it'll just be a spin and swing.
Okay, it's going to be imagine in by the sword, because you can't see them, you don't clearly know which one's coming from where, that kind of thing.
Right. That is, you said imagine, and does meets succeeds or meets?
It has to be under.
Okay, so I have 1 success.
Okay. With 1 success, you are bloodthirsty. So your first strike actually would bother you so much that it wasn't this clear, true strike of the great Vaznak, who defeated the greatest dragon in the history of your ancestral home. You are the dragon slayer, and your first strike against one of these didn't even make it howl.
Right.
So it makes you rage and just start swinging wildly, just to get that feeling of doing harm to the opponent that you were born to face. Or at least that's what I think. So reroll your success and see how you do.
Okay. Still a success.
All right, great. Any tags you want to use to help you?
Warrior.
How does that help you in this case? Does it help you hit the right person, or does it help you use your bloodthirstiness?
I think it helps me. I think it helps me know that there's another one behind me.
Oh,
right.
Cool.
It's instinct. So I'm getting surrounded, and I'm just picturing from side to side to side, and that's a success.
I imagine you thrust up, you're like, what? And you swipe again, swipe again, and that's exactly what makes the dragons kind of sneak up behind you. But you're a keen warrior, and you know these tactics, and just in time you turn to face them and are able to defend yourself, right?
Yep, and that's another success.
All the while as you're cutting through the area around you, creating all kinds of visibility,
Okay.
And you can begin to see that these are in fact dragons. They are gray and they are silver and they are large, but they're nothing like the mighty large. In my case, I always think it was a black dragon that you faced long ago, right? Meanwhile, just because you are in the thick of the fight doesn't mean that you're the only one involved. So, Jesse, you hear the dragon in front of you. It stands up and gets alert and looks to you, and it kind of bumps into you as it's turning around, unconcerned by you. And you could tell, as if some weird feeling, that it feels it has to go back to the others and help them. In your case, instead of giving you something to roll, why don't you roll your mind link? So roll Imagine Mind Link and see how well you can how much information you get out of this.
2 failures.
All right. Any tags that could help you?
Total Dragon Z file.
Okay. And how would that help you in this case?
He
trying
just
to ignore you. It's trying to just move you out of the way and get to where it needs to go.
It's like he's so desperate to he's so desperate he wants to be friends with this dragon, and he just wants to
You refuse to let the mind link go. The dragon's trying to snap you out as soon as it realizes what's happening, and you just won't let go.
Yeah.
You're clinging to it.
Okay, reroll.
I rolled the same exact thing I did before.
And it's worth mentioning, you do have pocket successes if you need them. You even have pocket criticals.
Oh, from the
with your faith
from
chart.
your belief going up,
Belief chart.
And that will make it go down. But it costs 2, right?
It does cost 2.
Okay. Yeah, I think I will.
The one benefit too is if you burn a critical in a challenge, it does double damage. We haven't seen damage though. How it works is every success you get against the challenge will deal points of damage to your target. And if you have a critical, it would double it. So the most you can typically do is 2 points of damage. But if you crit, you could do 4 points of damage.
Oh, so I'm actually damaging these dragons?
Well, you're damaging the challenge.
Oh.
The challenge is any way that your group figures out how to solve this with science.
Okay. Or at least with brains.
Yeah.
So I think given that he's desperate, very desperate, I think I will do to create a critical success.
Okay. With any critical success, we always ask what's the best possible thing that could come out of this. When it's a success, we end with the player who would roll, right? So, Morgan, what's the best possible thing that could happen for Lucas here as he tries to understand what the dragons are doing and what they're going, what they're thinking?
So, as I see it, he's trying to understand this dragon. This dragon is trying to block him out of the mind link he has into this hive mind. So I'd say the best possible outcome for Lucas would be that something triggers that, like, boosts that mind link.
Yeah.
Like tenfold. And, like, all of a sudden, their consciousnesses are almost one.
Wow.
They are both, like, half thinking, half seeing, like, together in unison. And, like, for that bit of time, Lucas is a part of the hive mind and can experience everything that they are all experiencing. He's tapped into the hive mind. Exactly.
Erik, what do you think?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is in this moment, he's part of the hive. He is. Lucas has probably fantasized about being a dragon almost as much as he's fantasized about riding a dragon. And for this moment, Lucas is a dragon.
Jesse, what do you think?
I probably already thought he kind of got to that, at least for a few seconds.
Sure.
But I would probably think he would not only be part of the hive mind, but he would communicate in a way that the dragons will actually listen to him, and maybe not that he's the queen of the hive, but all the dragons will pay attention to him, and said, please, please don't kill him. Please don't kill his prisoners. Return his prisoners. Make friends.
And with how he's talking, he spin this around in a way that is targeting the spirit, right? He's using this connection, the information he's gathering, to try to manipulate them to not hurt you, even though you're fighting them, right? So if he didn't critical, I would be like, oh, well, you're bloodthirsty, and that's causing a real problem by convincing them. But it was a critical, and we already know it's a double success. So the spirit of the challenge goes from 6 to 2. And you were fighting them. I didn't reduce that a minute ago. So the body, you had 2 successes, right, Erik?
2 successes, yeah.
Yeah. So that 8 went to a 6 earlier. Morgan, so the challenge is at a 4 mind, a 6 body, and a 2 spirit. So that's kind of the point totals we're at. Sorry, Jesse, you can remove the hate that you're separate and that's a problem, or that he's bloodthirsty is still creating problems. You could remove any of those so I could no longer hold them against you, or you could add a tag to the challenge that might help your friends.
Let's see. If that were separate, like physically separate or mentally separate?
Right. The physically separate was a problem, but yeah, maybe that's not so much a problem.
Then I think it's gonna be the hatred. I mean, if it was mentally separate and he could get the other 2 in the mind link, he would desire that first. But since it's not that, then it'll be the hatred.
Okay, so your conversations are helping to wipe. Okay, basically, they have this hive mind and they have this hate they don't even understand for Raznak. But your voice as one of them is speaking into the hive mind, and it's actually a person, right? Like one of them. Not like some age-old instinct that they don't understand. And you are kind of helping to counterbalance that. Of course, he's still fighting, and they're trying to protect themselves, and he wouldn't know the difference. But at the same point, you're wearing them down and working that angle. Morgan, I'm sorry. What are you doing? As you see him probably grab his head and start spitting nonsense, and so he starts talking as if one of like these hisses that the dragons were, and you don't have any. He looks like he's just lost it, though it's not 100% crazy to you because you've seen this happen to your mother on rare occasion. So some kind of possession, almost strange.
Yeah, so I'm sort of dumbfounded by all that's occurring in front of me.
Yeah,
which are things I never thought. This is not a situation I ever thought I'd be in my life.
Yeah.
With all that's going down, with this person who I almost
neither.
never associate with this creature, which I've been told is a thing of legends, in this place that is both forbidden to go and a place I never really would have had a chance to go.
Yeah.
I don't know where the hell my father is. I don't know where the hell my sister is. My brother's back at the town at the village with no. And so basically, there is very little in this situation that is good for me. And I'm sort of having like a mental overload, like trying to process all that is going on.
I love that pause and breakthrough. Like, is your character just stands there taking it all in.
Because my character is seeing basically all of this from an outside perspective. My character isn't a part of this. My character isn't in the fight with these creatures. My character isn't in the hive mind. My character isn't communicating with these creatures. And is seeing all of this in what's almost like a third-person view.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I have no clue how to deal with this situation.
All you can tell is that for some reason he's got a connection with this beast that doesn't seem to make any sense, and it happens so fast. He's not a shaman in any way, shape, or form that you know of, and it seemed actually when that beast nudged into him, like they could have bowled him over. He then went into this sort of possession, like weird heightened stasis, and when the beast stops touching him, he seems to come to. And this kind of all happens as you're kind of figuring out what you're doing. You can now hear the noises of swords swinging and hissing and exertion and voices and probably the grunts of your father that is coming from the cave, which must not be that far away.
Very, very distinct set of battle cries.
Yeah.
So he's coming out of this hive mind thing?
Yeah. Oh well, you from the physical point of you looking at him, he looks normal, or he's coming back to normal instead of being like.
Probably my first instinct would be going towards the sound of the hissing and like the battle cries and the weapons and stuff, because there's no doubt that is Raznok. But I also, despite how little I associate with him, I don't want to leave Lucas behind with this creature.
Yeah.
And like I hear the sound, and that's sort of a direction for me. But that was also the way the beast attempted to head before Lucas like started speaking this gibberish. And so using that, I basically take Lucas' arm and drag him with me while he's not like only half paying attention.
Sure.
In the direction the dragon had been trying to head trying to make my way into that cave to stop whatever's going down.
Which one of your strategies would help you physically pull a person?
Yeah, Lucas is not going to go along. He wants to stay in the mind link.
Probably being taken seriously.
Oh, sure. Yeah, right. So roll imagine being taken seriously and see if you can actually physically pull him in that direction.
1 success.
Okay. Separate's not a problem for you in this case, right? And that bloodthirsty is causing you no issues. So obviously I have nothing to hold against you. So you had 1 success?
Mm-hmm. Actually,
okay.
One sec. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Online games. I played an online game where we had someone say, 1 second, just a second. And we looked over his shoulder and he had a air conditioner in his window, and it had started to spark.
Oh no.
And he just stood up and he gets onto the mic and he says, I have to leave, guys. My air conditioner is on fire. And they just you hear the camera goes blank and he thought he disconnected, but you just hear him shouting obscenities and where's the fire extinguisher? Someone bring me the fire extinguisher. And it's oh no.
It's like streaming gold, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The first thing to do is unplug it and just go out on its own. It's probably a contactor or a motor, but it's probably a contactor.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's
no
okay.
problem.
So you had one success. Any tags that could help you physically drag the guy forward?
Batshit crazy.
And how
Or
would
you
it
could-
help you?
I just go up and do it.
Okay.
He's
Without-
bigger. He's way bigger than you. There's a
Without-
dragon there.
I know, but without thinking it through, which is really unusual for me because usually I'm analyzing everything, I just go forward and tug on his arm and just try to pull him because he's not paying attention to his surroundings. He's still sort of half focusing on this beast,
Yeah.
and that'd probably be enough for me to at least pull him a little bit before he actually realizes what is happening.
Sure. And the truth is, actually, you're going to kind of pull him in the same direction the dragon's trying to go anyway. It's trying to go to the cave to help. So, yeah, go ahead and reroll. See how you do.
Still only one success.
Okay. So you could use one other tag if it made sense.
Can you tag your relationship with me?
Could, yeah.
You are an inspiration to me.
I would be. You could be inspired to push him as hard as you can.
Well, remember your tag is he's helped you think analytically. So
Oh shoot! I was looking at the wrong person. My
That's
bad.
okay.
Critical thinking skill.
Though, of course, you could also say that, hey, your sister's in there and she could be dying right now while everyone's fighting. And, while she's frustrates you, it could be your motivation right now that you can't just let her die like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I'll go with the sister one.
Okay. Reroll one more time and see if it helps.
Still only one success.
Okay. It's worth mentioning at this point that every time you reroll, there's a chance that you get doubles because you're always going to reroll one die at a time. So there is always the risk. I mean, it could end up in a critical success, but if you have 2 failed dice, right, and you reroll 1, there's always the possibility it could lead to a critical fail. Just worth mentioning. I've had people buy their way out of it. I'm like, why don't you roll first? I'm like, well, because then I could critically fail and then we're screwed. All right. 1 success means that no tags change, but there's 1 point of damage that goes each way. You said body. So as you try to basically pull him forward, you just basically are jerking him and you strain your arm. You're not used to any physical exertion. And you find yourself now with one of your arms that's just uncomfortably tight. If you try to pull it in, it's like it's cramped up at full extension. But 1 point towards the body makes this 5 body. And we're back to Ragnak. Sorry, Raznak. I don't know why I use it Ragnak.
You're thinking Ragnar from Vikings is what's going on.
There we go. Raznak, what are you doing?
So how much of the mist is cleared at this point? Can I see more?
Most of it.
Can I see more people?
You can see most of the people piled up. And while they look lifeless, they don't look dead. They're not pouring out blood, and they're not that bluish color that they should be of the cold even after it having been several days since anyone was here. They just look strangely laying in a pile, much like a horde, right? Of dragons of old.
And can I see at this point? Can I see the queen? Can I see her?
No,
not yet. I'm gonna hack my way to where I know she is.
Certainly. So let's get by the sword, unless you have something else in mind. It sounds like a reason.
I'm trying to power my way through. So to be different, I'd like to roll by my strength.
Oh, sure.
By
kind of bull rushing through it, right? Like knocking them out of the way, slicing.
Yeah, it's more like at this point I can see I picture in my head there's the horde of corpses, quote unquote, the horde, and my daughter is actually on top in display, and I picture there's dragon, 5 dragons between, and he's just gonna set his shoulder and lull the sword back and just anime charge his way through by my strength.
Okay. By my strength.
That's 2 successes.
Okay.
Because I'm guessing that was reason.
Sure. Yeah, that's reasonable use of your strength. In this case, as you're rushing through, you are bloodthirsty, though. And it is a struggle to not stay back and defeat each one of these, to kill these beasts so they don't keep coming. Mm-hmm. The smart thing is I need to bulldoze and get to you. I need to make sure my daughter's safe. It doesn't matter. I can kill them all later. But you're struggling against yourself. That bloodthirstiness is going to make you reroll your successes.
Okay. Both of them?
Yes.
That's double ones, Pete.
I was gonna say that's also where you could be like, F you, Pete. I'm buying my way out of this.
I'm just gonna roll double ones instead. So.
Okay. So we know that's going to do 4 points to the body, which means it's going to leave 1 point left.
Okay.
But given the amount, given the time, right? We're just going to go ahead and give you that extra 1 point and push it over.
Okay.
So we know this is going to defeat the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to figure out a little bit of a way that science was involved here, right? So Jesse and Morgan, do you have any ideas that would help? He's going to try to bum rush his way through to find the queen. What about maybe why did he ever teach you to think analytically? Or is there something that you do say or remind him of that is science that would help him here? Is there something scientific about the dragons and the hive mind that helps you? Maybe Jesse finds a way to talk through the dragons?
He would not know about that. He would not know about the hive mind. Brasnock would not know about the hive mind, right?
Sure.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I think Lucas will think about that and also try to draw the other two into the hive mind.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe in some way you can try to you got it somehow. Maybe you could help broadcast it to them. Yeah. There's got to be some way that all the dragons share it.
I think she would be more receptive than he, but but it's plus she's right next to him. He can see her physically, but
she's trying to drag you in, yeah.
But it's I think that he would do that rather than speak through the dragon and try to play Master Queen, which he doesn't want to do. He wants to be the friend. He's gonna try to draw both of them into the hive mind.
Okay, so Jesse's saying that maybe, especially because the two of you you're physically touching each other as you're dragging him, that he's trying to see if he can spread that hive mind in a way that help you. Morgan, what do you think? What's going to help us scientifically figure out how to solve this problem? Maybe it's going to help us find the queen. Maybe it's going to help us make them all give you what you want. Maybe it's going to help you figure out what they want in trade?
I'd say in order to either bargain with them to give us back the prisoners or defeat them or anything like that, the first thing you need to do is understand why they attacked the Vikings in the first place if they were only traveling through. Because they didn't come there with the intent of harming the dragons. They just wanted a quicker passage. So they would not have been there to hunt the dragons, in which case there must have been a reason the dragons attacked them, because clearly they're hostile towards Ragnar, but they weren't immediately hostile towards me or Lucas. So they're clearly not immediately hostile to all dragons. Sorry,
okay.
They're wary of us, but not hostile.
So, Erik, I think we just fed you a lot, which is basically they touch. The hive mind connects to your daughter. Your daughter is thinking all these things of how are we at peace? What is the problem? What do they want from us? Why did they ever attack us in the first place? She's trying to use the analytics that she learned from you, breaking it down instead of doing something stupid. And then as you were kind of doing something stupid, right? As you're just rushing through, not that beast, going straight for the queen because obviously she's the heart of the problem. You are also connected and you feel this instinctual hate that a whole generation of beasts that aren't even as great as they used to be, their legacy has diminished because you've wiped out the best of them. And it's almost as if you could imagine their next progeny was just a lesser version of their old self. And they don't even know why they hate you, but you're the source of a generation of hate. And that link gives you that information. As you're charging and you see before you, right? As you can kind of from feet to top.
And so I think the person who's saved here, there's no person who's saved here. It's the queen who's saved here. Because I rush through and she's so, at this point, as I get through and I'm clearing that mist, she's old. She's decrepit. She is no longer anything remotely the legacy she was. I killed the king. I killed her husband 28 years ago. And ever since, she has withered, and it has actually been her strength withering that has caused generation after generation to shrink and diminish. And so the dragon that they're seeing may not actually be as young as they think it is. It's just small. And it's because she's so sad and she's so depressed. And I'm poised. There's no way this queen can defend herself against me as I have gotten close. She's just too old and too decrepit to save herself. And as I feel that and I realize I feel her sadness, I feel her pain, I feel her just generations now of anguish, I just drop Storm Chaser or Stormbringer to the ground and realized I'm here to save my family, but I've cost her hers.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, I mean, obviously we hit that second milestone, but we're just right on the spot where we need to take this home. So why don't we go into epiloguing it, right? So we just set the scene that the mind link happened. It fed all of the feelings and emotions and understanding that was needed to Raznak to understand what's most important to him. He took away from something else. And if he would have ever saw it like that, maybe it would have changed everything. But, you know, I mean, you're Vikings, right? You raid the Vikings.
Right.
This is what you do. You take from others for the benefit of your own. But you've never had to feel that other side, especially now you being the older, wizened version, right? Worried about legacy and the future. Morgan, you gave that moment to him. The analytics you learned from your father, in a way you just recycled and fed back to him so that he could understand this. Jesse, you have this link that you know has grabbed onto the other two, and all of these dragons, as the two of you are kind of coming through, are not affecting you, and they're all around you. So it's probably awesome for you right now, as you're surrounded by dragons, and they, you know, I mean, you don't feel hostility from them towards you. You feel like wonderment, and they're excited and scared all at the same time because they don't know what's coming next. Because like the hive mind's really effing with what they understand, especially that you included like the person they hate. It's like this weird programming glitch that's going on. So all of you find yourself with the fog kind of dissipating, and the queen, which is the withered, old, not powerful, strong paragon that you would imagine, and all of these like sort of mid-sized fledglings that are as big as Ragnak if he was drawn out are all kind of crawling even on the ceiling, right? There's like 20 of them that are all kind of like coming to as the three of you are all in the same spot. It's the first time, Ragnak, that you've actually, I mean, even the mind link, you didn't know they were here. So like your daughter shows up as you fall to your knees, and you're thinking these thoughts, and you hear footsteps, and you can probably hear Lucas saying dragons. But I shouldn't take that from you guys. Lucas, what are you doing when you come up? Do you say anything? This is the first time the two of you have seen Ragnak and physically now that the situation happened. Anya, do you see
everybody's
anything?
physically together now?
Yeah.
And he's been pushed out of the mind link?
No, he's, as far as you know, he's in the mind link, and he is on his knees with the Stormbringer. Is it laying down or sword in the ground?
It's sword in the ground.
Sword in the ground, staring at this withered, large, old dragon who raises a hand like a claw towards him as if she was gonna strike him, and she's just holding it up there above him. And you know that's because of the mind link. The mind link is like kind of messing with all of them. They don't know what to think. And in one hand, she wants to strike him down. And the other hand, she doesn't understand why he isn't fighting. Like, this guy's like the incarnate of destruction to her. You know, he should be this whirling dervish of fire and death. And he just sat down in front of her.
It is all this unforgiveness and hatred is just causing you to rot to your core. It's like so unless he tries to strike you first, please don't kill him. Otherwise, you will continue withering in your hatred.
Raznak, you do hear the wisest words you've ever heard Lucas say in your head. Anya, what are you doing?
I'd probably just run to my father's side.
Okay. What do you do when you're at his side?
I'd kneel down on the ground next to him and sort of like hold on his arm and try to see if is he injured, but he has like the same sort of like far off gaze that Lucas had before?
Erik, why don't you tell us?
He is for a long period of time. He's almost catatonic, and that hand is kind of poised there, similarly catatonic, and he's going to eventually kind of stand up, and he's going to bow his head down and verbally, not in the mind link, but he's going to verbally and out loud say words that Anya's probably never heard before. And he's just going to look, get as close to the dragon's eyes as he can and just say, "I'm sorry."
Okay. So in the mind link, Jesse, what does that feel like for Lucas? I mean, obviously you can feel her mood, her understanding. It's like strange, and there's a hesitation as she wonders, like, is this for real? Like, is this a trap? What, she's just kind of trying to break it down. Like, I don't understand what a predator would do this for. And then there's like relief, and sort of like they both have this shared bond of wisdom that came with age. That wasn't something they both would have had 29 or 28 years ago.
And Lucas has relief too, so he's augmenting that.
Yeah, Lucas is like, yes, no dragons were harmed, except for those. What the fuck?
There's like 5 dead ones.
Oh, you already killed like 5 dragons?
Anya, what about you? Your father stands up and whispers, like, to the face. He probably never whispered in his life. He probably solemnly says, "I'm sorry." And you can see this weird sort of manipulation of the body of the elderly withered dragon, of misunderstanding, of confusion. And then the talon hand begins to lower slowly.
I'd probably just stay there, like kneeling on like the stone of this cave, just sort of staring at him, half open mouthed, in just confusion and awe.
Okay. I guess last but not least, right? So Erik, take us home. How do you pass on your legacy? What is your legacy from this, and what happens?
So I turn and I lift Stormbringer, pull it out of the ground, and I keep the blade down, and I pop the Firestone out of the blade, and I produce my cup, and I place the Firestone in the cup, and as soon as the two touch, it just fills with this liquid that's the same color as the Firestone, and I will stand next to the head of the dragon, and I will drink from that cup and set it down next to the dragon, and step over and lift the sword, and I will hold it out, like this, to my daughter, who it's, as big as, but as she takes it, it's as light as it possibly can be. And I, it's just, it's like when you hand someone a pumice stone for the first time, right? Like, you're like, oh, this is super heavy, and they brace for it, and then it's just super light. Hand it to her, and I will look at her and I will say, "Tell your mother. She'll know where I am, and she'll know where I need her to be. And tell your brother that everything changes today." And I will just go, and where the dragon is, I will sit down next to the dragon, and just, they'll know that they need to leave. That this is the exchange, right? A new era has to begin for my tribe as well as for theirs, and we know that the only way that new era can begin is the old guard has to leave. And so her mother will arrive, they'll go back, and as they're standing there, because I'm assuming you didn't actually kill my other daughter, they just eventually wake up.
Yeah, she's gonna lift the spell kind of on them. But and so that'll be in a moment.
Yeah, they'll all come to, and my 3 children, with Lucas kind of in the background, in the shot, and not like in the background, but not quite foreground. In the shot, they will watch as this massive silver streak kind of flies up out of the background, and myself and Greta and the Dragon Queen fly off, leaving the young new generation of smaller, more amiable, now linked with Lucas dragons, and my children to rule Trondheim differently than the three of us did.
Anything Lucas wants to add? What happens to Lucas?
Well, first of all, he's going to want to get look at the name. I'm really bad with names.
Reorg.
Into the mind link. If he wants to. And during that picture, he'll probably be like his Lucas's head would be like resting on Reorg's shoulder and posing happy.
Do you bring any of the dragons with you?
Huh?
Do you bring a dragon with you? Do you ride one back? You are kind of ushering a new era of peace between the two of you.
If any dragons are particularly like amiable to Lucas and they want to come, he will invite them into the village.
Okay. Well, at least the first one, the one that you first connected with, you have a bond with that, and a weird, strange bond that has linked you. I mean, from the moment you met. Yeah.
So it's like, and we probably even bonded even closer, and like even entered the equivalent of the drift with each other. All his memories are the dragons, and the dragons' memories are his, which might dump the whole hive on him. And you want Reorg to get the same privileges. And if she wants in, let her in too. And anybody else who wants in.
Last but not least, so Anya, what does your father's legacy mean? What does your father's legacy mean to you? And where does Anya go from here?
Well, probably for the first time in a long time in my village, Anya would actually be acknowledged. And like the community as a whole would probably actually pay attention to her for once. Because she and Lucas, of all people, went off on this voyage.
Yeah.
And apparently now there's dragons and everybody is, and I think her goal would be to, like, help people in the villages as, like, able-minded as her in the ways of science, and, like, be able to acknowledge science and things like that and embrace it and be able to, like, incorporate it into their lives. And use that to help make our village and our people superior to those around us.
Well said, well said. So the last thing we do in Dream Chaser is that whether it's the end of a session or the end of a game, is that we take a moment of gratitude for each player. So each player come up with one moment or one thing another player did that made your experience better. Maybe it's some idea for your character. Maybe it was the dream they pitched. Maybe it was a really funny moment in the game. Maybe it's just something you thought was really cool and made you really think or get into the game.
Erik had the right balance of being like the adversary in the game, kind of. Even though the dragons are technically the official adversary, but like he was kind of like the force against achieving the objective of his bloodlust and hate of the dragons.
Yeah.
I role played the bad guy.
Yeah.
I was the antagonist.
But you were regulated enough you didn't spoil the story.
Sorry, I didn't hear you just now, Morgan.
But you were regulated enough you didn't spoil the story. Oh.
I said, Jesse, I loved your character and the just sort of slight like naivety, innocence, like the character had, but at the same time was very able, particularly with like the dragons and everything like that. I really like that. That was a nice mix. And,
yeah, that's exactly the type of character I like to play.
I loved your ending, Erik, and the way you sort of shaped that into a very movie-esque ending that was, it sort of wrapped the whole thing up and it gave basically the story a sort of moral and all that. And I always have to give gratitude to the GM, despite what people may say.
Yeah, you're very good, GM.
You have an amazing description.
Jesse, I'm when I pitched Raid with Vikings, right? I pictured bloodthirsty battle on, the shore, and I greatly appreciate actually having now finished the temperance to that and the alteration that you wove in with the concept of a mind link of a hive mind dragon. It took what I had pictured and altered it at such a fundamental level. And I was honestly apprehensive at first, and then was very pleasantly pleased and surprised by the change that it wrought. And I'm really grateful, Morgan, that you rolled with the idea of a family of Vikings, this tribe of Viking leadership, because I know a lot of people who wouldn't, like, I have no idea who this guy with the beard is. I do not want to roleplay his daughter. That sounds terrible. And the familial link in the game with both your character and the various NPCs led to the ending that I pitched. And without you and making that choice, I wouldn't have gotten there. And then, obviously, Pete, I've been looking forward to this game since I hit that pledge button, right? And so I'm glad it finally came around. I'm really pleased to get to play. So thank you.
Thank you all for making it happen. So this was our story about raiding with Vikings. I like to think the funny part of it was the unlikely Vikings who got to raid with them for the first time, right?
Right.
It was the Dragon Whisperer and the young daughter who was never meant to be here, right? And like you said, you even kind of ushered in the next generation, the unlikely generation.
It's just like the movie in principle, not in exactly, but in principle, it's just like the movie.
Well, and I picture Anna's taking over, like, I picture Greta as the last shaman, right? And shamanism ends and science begins. And so with my 3 children, ushering in a new era of scientific Vikings.
I guess I technically did take over the role of shaman, huh?
You are the new shaman in scienciness.
Okay, well, we're going to close this broadcast. I'll talk to the 3 of you in a second. And anything you want to say, or even just wave goodbye?
For all the people who did watch, thank you for watching and come along with this story with us. We had a lot of fun doing it, and I hope anybody who watched it, even a part of it, enjoyed it as well.
I hope people that watch it have fun watching
it. Yep, and go to imagininggames.com.
Shameless plugs. Thank you. Bye-bye.